Previously on the Persona 5 Royal Doing Nothing Challenge run. With Harris in recovery, Endure, Recarm, and the best healing skills in the game, Morgana is gonna carry us throughout the rest of this game. I lose Morgana? My most efficient party member? We have Ryuji, An, and Haru as our party members for the entirety of Okumura's palace. And what sucks is that there's really no efficient method of grinding in Okumura's palace, as most of the grinding will be all over the palace. Trust me, I think I can remember where every platform is placed out here with the amount of times I had to grind in this section of the palace alone. It's not a simple or straightforward strategy, and it does require a bajillion reloads. Once we get the perfect set of skills for Haru and a few levels with everyone else, we might be able to breeze through the Okumura boss fight no problem. Wishful thinking, but positive feeling nonetheless. Normal difficulty might be possible, but at this point, guys, I was so burned out. I just wanted to quit this run. Seriously, I just wanted it to end. I remember after failing the attempts on normal difficulty, I couldn't sleep for the entire night, and I suffered working at my real-life job with sleep deprivation. At this point, this run was not only getting on my nerves, it was affecting my health both physically and mentally. My brain is so freaking fried that I can't even go into details why this fight doesn't work. Even on easy difficulty, our success is a small window. Is there a way to increase our odds without constant failed attempts? Because I refuse to fight Mothmans for several days straight.
Oh, you got... Get up!
Hello everybody, Nitsa Gamer here, and welcome back to the most insane and agonizing run I have ever done in a video game. A depression percent run that provides the perfect masochist simulation where Joker does it like Luigi and Mario Party by doing nothing. As you can see, it's October 4th in the game, even though in the last part I was finishing up Okumura's palace on October 10th, and while defeated the boss fight was in the realm of possibility, I ultimately made a sacrifice to increase my low odds of winning the fight. In part 1, I played the game on merciless difficulty up to the Madarame boss fight, which was impossible due to the heavy rule sets we placed on ourselves. So for Madarame's boss fight and the rest of part 2, I played on hard difficulty up to the Okumura boss fight, which I deemed impossible on hard, but plausible on normal and easy difficulty if the RNG gods made the odds ever in our favor. If you haven't watched the previous two parts, I highly recommend watching the first two parts, or otherwise you might be confused on what happens when we go back in time 1 week prior. You could tell I went back in time as the playtime and the level on these two files contradict each other. The reason I did this is because I did all the grinding on hard difficulty, and after realizing that I only need to prove a run like this is possible and not so much if it's possible on the hardest difficulty, I have made the decision to do the rest of this run on easy difficulty. And by going back in time, I have 4 days of Okumura's palace to try to surpass the levels we ended up with at the end of part 2. If you think this makes the run way too easy now, well, watch me lose my sanity in the last part and you can understand my decision. And if you think putting it on easy difficulty makes it easier, you would be wrong. The game actually does get harder even on easy difficulty. So, with that said, let's continue the run. So we return back to Okumura's palace on easy difficulty and go after the hotspots of where the treasure demons spawn. Fight Rebellious Elephant with only Madoon causing a reload, and with easy difficulty allowing 20% more damage and gain 20% more experience points than on hard, our goal is to gain at least 1 extra level with every character. So after 4 days of grinding later, I attempted to see if we could fight up against the Reaper since we take far less damage than usual, and while it's cutting it close, there was just no way to make any significant progress in over-leveling our party sooner than usual. We do so little damage, and the Reaper will target my party's weaknesses to get his 1 mores, so for now, the Reaper is still a no-go. but hopefully soon we will be able to kill the Reaper for a crap ton of experience because my god, we need it. So on the 8th, we increase Maruki's rank to 7 like we did last time and go change Okumura's heart on the final day. We go after the Treasure Demon's usual 4 hotspots, and here's the big question: did we level up more than we did in the previous timeline on hard difficulty? Yes, we leveled Joker, Ryuji, and On up by 1 level, and also increased Agatheon up by 1 level, who, again, requires more experience to level up than the rest of us. Haru, however, is still the same level as she was in the previous timeline. While she definitely gained more experience than before, she is still at level 54, but on the upside, she has her gun boost ability to guarantee a win against the 4th wave of worker bots. So now, the time has come. With only 1 level increased on everyone except Haru, let's see if we can end the Okumura boss fight once and for all, and have this nightmare end. First wave, On Miragi dines the worker bots to death, and baton passes to Haru to weaken the 2nd wave of worker bots and finish the ones who didn't die with a grenade launcher. After Haru attacks the 3rd wave, Futaba buffs everyone's attack power, which is awesome because this is exactly one of the few factors we need to get through the 4th wave. Ryuji weakens the 3rd wave and death bounds them to death. And then we get the 4th wave of the division managers where no one can exploit their weaknesses. Okumura buffs the defense on one of the worker bots, but thanks to On, she debuffs the worker bot with Dekaja, allowing Haru to use Triple Down, which is a gun attack. And gun is literally the only affinity that all worker bots are neutral to. And as you can see, even with our attack buffed, the worker bots are barely below 50% of HP. But with Ryuji using Deathbound and Haru not evading a single attack, On was able to fully heal her since Haru is below 50% health, allowing the AI to feel safe to use Triple Down once more, where we finally obliterate all the division managers with everyone standing! We freaking did it! We just had the right RNG to get through the 4th wave a second time, but this time with no one getting KO'd! Oh my god! Oh god, I'm just crying just even reading the script, guys. I mean, was it due to us going back in time to level up? Maybe? I guess a little bit of sacrifice really does please the sadistic gods because we got through this in the new timeline on the first try. Wow. But anyway, Ryuji gets a crit with Deathbound on the 5th wave, allowing him to baton pass to Haru to exploit the weaknesses, and triple down them all to death, except for one that got a defense buff. And with one more attack from Haru, the 5th wave didn't even get a chance to attack us. So that just leaves the Executive Director, and because we're playing on easy difficulty, the Executive Director is barely a threat, and when he performs the Big Bang Order, our party members will guard just like they did with the previous boss battles. So we were able to get through the Executive Director and Robot Haru without any issues, and with one hit on Okumura, we finally did it! We have finally beaten this godforsaken palace! So, how long did it take us to beat Okumura on hard difficulty and then easy in the last week? Well, we ended the Futaba arc around a save time of 50 hours, and we went back in time around 68 hours, and we ended the Okumura arc at 71 hours. So the total save time spent is 21 hours. Multiply that by the amount of reloads, and I wouldn't be surprised if I spent a full game's worth playthrough in this palace alone. Either way, we got through this hellish experience, and I'm gonna relish my satisfaction by watching the Black Mask guy kill Okumura without fast forwarding. Oh yeah, that turns me on. I wonder who this Black Mask fella is. Don't worry, I won't spoil it for any of you who haven't. On October 26, Akechi confesses that he is the Black Mask fella who killed Okumura out of rage for dealing with Rebellious Elephant. And so, to thank him for killing the ruler of the worst palace in the run, we offer him a position as a Phantom Thief as we go after Makoto's older sister, Sae Nijima. We start off with the same 4 party members from Okumura's palace, but since Haru is the lowest party member on the stat screen, she gets replaced by Akechi for his sort of awakening battle against a leopard with a boner. So we guard with Akechi, change Akechi's tactics to act freely with Joker, and guard with Joker. And thanks to our over-leveling in the previous palaces, we beat off that horny leopard, no problem. October 30th is the earliest we can start infiltrating Sae's palace, so we jump in with Ryuji, On, and Akechi being our party members for the entirety of Sae Nijima's palace. Goro Akechi is a one-of-a-kind party member as he has Bless, Curse, Almighty, and Physical skills, and a persona trait to reduce the SP cost of allies using support skills. Sadly, our party members almost never use support skills, and when they do, there's no clear reason why they use it, so his trait is quite useless for this run. Despite Akechi having Curse and Bless attacks, he is weak to Curse attacks. Now, for those of you who have played Persona 5 beforehand, you know that having Akechi in the front lines is more of a detriment to gaining EXP unless you have maxed out Mishima's Confidant, but having Akechi in our party is actually a blessing in disguise for this run. Not just because of his versatility in battle and superior default equipment, but also for reasons following after this palace. You'll see when we eventually get to those moments. And right at the very start of Sae's palace, there's a searchable object where a hotspot for a treasure demon is. Orlov. Orlov is weak to Curse attacks. Now, Akechi on Act Freely will always try Bless first before Curse when the affinities for enemies are unknown. Thankfully, we have enough attack power to finish Orlov off for a lot of EXP. And just to the right of where the first will seed is, there is another hotspot with a treasure demon, and while I'm sure there is more around the palace, these were the only 2 I was able to find within the first 2/3 of the infiltration. The only downside is that it will take 2 turns to kill Orlov, which will waste everyone's SP. But thankfully, with Akechi learning Heavy Curse at level 48 and Attack Master at level 50, we will be able to reduce the amount of SP wasted, therefore extending our time grinding for EXP in this palace. The mini-bosses were no biggie, though the first one on the stairs can put up quite a fight. And by the end of the first infiltration day, we have to break one of our rules and go shopping to buy the high limit card. But since this is story progressive, I'm just gonna say Makoto bought it and not Joker. And so we complete 2/3 of the infiltration, which means we need to grind out our party members' remaining SP before we head back to reality. Now, I tried fighting the Strong Shadow in this palace, and already, I'm getting PTSD from fighting this thing after fighting the Strong Shadows in the last 3 palaces. Now, unlike Anubis and Rebellious Elephant, this Strong Shadow inflicts fear on everyone, and while Joker and Akechi has a chance of resisting it thanks to Garden and Fortify Spirit, On and Ryuji aren't so lucky. And what's worse is that they won't just straight up get KO'd, there's a good chance that one of your party members will straight up run away from battle, which is impossible to revive from. And on top of that, the Strong Shadow can exploit On and Akechi's weaknesses, and honestly, I really do not feel like grinding against the Strong Shadow anymore, just no. So, for the rest of the day, I just grinded on common random enemies as our best common enemy to grind against is only available on the high limit floor. So, we get Sae Nijima to notice us in the courtroom and gain access to the high limit floor the next day. And interestingly enough, there's a hotspot for a treasure demon just outside where the battle arena is. But instead of fighting Orlov, we fight Regent, the treasure demon from Madarame's palace. Needless to say, an easy defeat, but a huge waste of SP. And then we go through the House of Darkness, which is really easy thanks to Third Eye. My party defeats an easy mini-boss, and then we get to the part that you've all been waiting for. Because of Joker's incompetence to help in battle, our team forces us into the arena Joker only, with only Futaba providing the occasional buff. So, run over, right? Well, not really. First of all, anyone who was crazy enough to do a run like this should have already known that this was coming. And second of all, as I said, as long as it's story progressive, we are allowed to do things as Joker, such as the tutorial fights that force us to use Joker. we're gonna treat the solo battles as the same, as we have 4 of them in this palace, 1 in Shido's palace, and 1 during the 3rd semester. So instead of this being a do-a-nothing battle, it's gonna be a Persona 5 royal minimalist depressed teen who fights under pressure from his pissed off friends as his adrenaline pumps in battle. Allowing myself to use the Velvet Room would be breaking a ton of rules, so the least amount of rules to break is us fighting these shadows with Joker and our only persona we've had since the fusion tutorial, Agatheon. So our main rule is that we're allowed to attack and use items Joker only, but we're not allowed to switch personas. And if you saw the physical attack only run by Screedmints, you know that his run ends with the second battle, as there's no possible way to reflect damage back at the enemies, so relying on repel damage as a method of doing nothing is not gonna work. So we have no choice but to fight with Joker. So, when do I do it? Do I grind for the majority of the deadline and save the arena for the last 2 days or something? Nope, I do it on the 3rd day after finishing my grinding on the 2nd day. Why? You'll see. First, we changed the difficulty to Merciless. There's a reason I'm doing this. The first battle takes the longest, as we're doing only 65% of the damage, and the only weakness Geisha has is Psychokinesis, and I only have 1 item that can exploit their weakness, so most of it was just Joker attacking them like sponges. I mainly use Zio since it has a chance of inflicting shock, and after they get defeated, it's 3 Rangdas. They repel physical and gun, but their weakness is Bless and Electric. I knew of this way beforehand, as I purposely fused Agatheon with Zio just to be prepared for this fight alone. Sadly, we're stuck with light damage, so it's gonna take a long while till we— oh my god, Merciless the hardest difficulty, my ass! And then comes Thor. He is neutral to all affinities, but drains electric attacks, so using Zio or repelling electric attacks is not an option. First, we get Joker fully healed with a bead. Thor charges, which means he's gonna go for a physical attack. I then rub some physical ointment on my body. Thor prepares, I do a melee attack, and with a Megaton Raid, I reflect a crap ton of damage back at Thor. From here, I just use melee as he concentrates for an electric attack, but thankfully I defeated Thor before he had a chance to attack me again. So the reason why I choose Merciless was so we could attack the second phase in one shot and repel a ton of damage back at Thor, and also because Merciless offers us 20% of EXP, just like Easy Difficulty does. And the reason I didn't grind is because the lower Agatheon's endurance is, the greater the reflective damage. So there you go, we're back to now making Joker useless. We secure an infiltration route, and now it's 2 weeks of grinding. I made the decision not to fight the strong shadow in this palace due to the heavy reliance on RNG, so instead, I went with the next best method. Fighting Rangda in the House of Darkness. Akechi can exploit their weakness with Bless, and Ryuji can exploit their weakness with Electric, and they are the 3rd most powerful common enemy in this palace, making them the most efficient EXP grind. If Akechi or Ryuji knock them down, we can finish them off in one all-out attack without wasting any SP. For the most part. On will have a higher agility than the boys, so she will use Lullaby to put the enemies to sleep. And while yes, it's kinda useless since Akechi and Ryuji are exploring the weaknesses and not the technical, an enemy that gets put to sleep cannot evade an attack, so On's Lullaby is actually useful here. Akechi can only attack one enemy at a time, and even if he has insta-kill Bless attacks, he will never use it on Act Freely, so you're best keeping both medium and heavy Bless on Akechi, so if he runs out of SP to use heavy Bless, he can attack with medium Bless no problem. Akechi will constantly change positions as he levels up his agility, but it doesn't change that much gameplay-wise for the most part. If Akechi goes ahead of On, however, there's a slim chance that Akechi might miss an enemy, but if he doesn't, this does save SP for On. So for every day we come back to Sae's palace, we just ignore the Treasure Demon and Strong Shadow and fight Rangda in the House of Darkness until Ryuji and Akechi run out of SP. After that, On will still have some SP left on her, so we fight the enemies in the room with the big slot machine, as the enemies here will be weak to fire. It's not fun per se, but I will definitely say this is the most relaxed and least repetitive strategy of the entire run. I would happily do this over fighting Anubis over and over again. And hey, doing this got me to memorize the pathways in the House of Darkness, so it no longer feels like a maze to me anymore. And if I want to change the pace, I could do this clockwise or counterclockwise. It only takes about 8 minutes to do a full circle, and it takes less than an hour to do this grinding per day. There's 3 things to note, however. 1. Ryuji will use heavy electric over medium, so your SP will run out faster once Ryuji learns Maziodyne, and since taking Ryuji to the confession booth counts as doing something, we're best just sticking with Maziodyne for the rest of the run. Another thing to note is that it's possible to get a treasure demon at a certain hotspot in the House of Darkness, but because you're wasting more SP and gaining the same, if not less EXP if you just fight Rangda, the treasure demon will not be a high priority. And also within the House of Darkness, you will fight against Norn, who is the second strongest shadow in the palace. Norn is neutral to all of her attacks, however, there's a chance that Norn will partially heal during the fight, and our party will always start off with gun attacks. And right now, we're needing to conserve our SP for Rangda. Usually when I escape a battle, it's usually a means to retreat and reload my file to try again, but I've used it so many times in this run that I might as well count it as doing nothing. So when grinding, I escape from Norn, and at worst my party only wastes a little bit of their ammo for this fight alone, and we escape unscathed with only a little bit of our HP gone. And we always have the gay agenda to save Ryuji's ass whenever we need it. God bless you, gay agenda. We continue to do this every day, leveling up my party. Akechi can learn Samarikarm, and yes, he is able to revive fallen members, but will likely never need to use it for the rest of the run. And here's a mistake that I always make before realizing it recently. Whenever I learn the passive amp ability to increase elemental damage by 50%, I always replace the boost skill, which does 25% damage. However, unlike the counter and affinity skills where the highest one overwrites the previous skill, amp and boost do stack, given a 75% elemental damage. And right now, we need not just high endurance, but as much damage potential as possible for these last few boss fights. So to make sure that you're not an idiot like me, make sure you have both boost and amp on your party members. On and Morgana will learn both boost and amp, but Ryuji sadly only learns boost, and Akechi learns neither. Once On learns fire amp, however, I realized that now would actually be the best time to grind against Norn. I pretty much wait until Akechi runs out of SP, so Ryuji will be handling Rangda while Akechi attacks Norn with gun and melee, which does far more damage than the others, and On can Augidyne a crap ton of damage out of Norn. Doing this, we can gain a slight bit more EXP than if we were to fight a single Rangda. So once Ryuji runs out of his SP or On goes below a certain percentage where she only relies on melee attacks, we use the rest of On's SP in the big slot room, and for every single day, we do not leave the palace till everyone's SP is drained except for Joker's. Once in a while, I may have to push the last bit of grinding by fighting common enemies or the strong shadow on one occasion, but I rarely do this. So, how far do we grind for by grinding every day, wasting everyone's SP in this palace? Well, enough to learn the final skill for everybody. Blazing Hell for On, God's Hand for Ryuji, and Debilitate for Akechi. Very costly and strong skills, and Akechi will never use Debilitate. But this means that this is the final skill set for Ryuji and On for the rest of the run, as they will be unable to do their second awakenings. And I'll add a footnote to Akechi's skill set for obvious reasons that only people who have beaten this game know. Now, remember how we were unable to enter any palace during the last 3 days when we have an infiltration route secured? Well, apparently this failsafe does not apply to Sae's palace, as we can continue to grind on the 17th. However, I did use this time to try to fight the Reaper in Mementos, and sadly, even though we've gained a ton of levels in Sae's palace alone, we're barely putting a dent in the Reaper. Akechi can fully revive and On will heal, but the only best damage potential we got is Showtime attacks, which only the RNG gods can trigger. And while we can survive some attacks on easy difficulty, the Reaper just does so much damage and we do so little that my party will end up dropping one by the time we get to a quarter of the Reaper's health. There is no way this fight is possible unless we are about the same level as the Reaper, which is level 85. So sadly, we can't utilize Akechi to grind to a high level sooner without using insta-kill to grind to level 85. So sadly, we continue to grind on the final day in Sae's palace, fighting Rangdas, Norn once Akechi loses his SP, and enemies weak to fire when Ryuji runs out of his SP, and pushing the last bit of grinding when necessary. By the end of it all, we grinded Joker, Ryuji, and On to level 77. How high is that? 24 levels higher than Sae Nijima herself, and 14 levels higher than Shido, and 2 levels higher than Yaldabaoth. That's right, according to the game, we're already far better than a god after 80 saved hours of doing nothing. Meanwhile, Akechi is at level 72, which won't matter much once this palace ends, and Agathon is at level 63. With the final day of grinding done, we max out our only optional confidant that is required for the optional palace, and send the calling card to Sae Nijima to go change her heart on the 19th. Now, most of the grinding has been done on easy difficulty, so just to make sure I can document the most out of the boss fights to come, I will be fighting Sae Nijima on hard difficulty, and I will switch back to easy once I'm done. So let's see if I can beat Sae Nijima on hard difficulty. Don't worry, Makoto, you're gonna stay in the backlines and do absolute jack crap unless you get a showtime with Ryuji during this fight. Yeah, let's hope the party members don't attack. Do you think there's going to be 4 or 3 parts? My goal is to try to get this all condensed down to 3 parts instead of 4. So for the remaining palaces from Okumura's boss fight all the way to 3rd semester, I'm hoping to condense it all down to 3 parts. Okay, so everyone guards, so they do acknowledge the penalty, so that's really good. Yeah, honestly, out of all the casino games in a casino, I get card games, I get betting your life against card games, but honestly, I do not get the thrill of betting on a roulette game. I mean, you have a higher chance of losing compared to winning. Why would you play a roulette game? Like, I seriously don't get the gambling addiction. Alright, so here we go. Everyone goes back to a line instead of in the circle that they were in, and now we're fighting the Leviathan. Oh no. Holy shit. Remember, this is hard difficulty. Okay, On, please. Why aren't you healing, On? On should be healing. She's not doing it. What the frick? Megidola. Wow. We are severely overleveled, guys. We are severely overleveled and somehow lost the Sae Nijima boss fight. So, nope, you cannot beat the Sae Nijima boss fight by doing nothing. Goodbye, guys! Okay, obviously, we're gonna need to lower the difficulty, so, or switch this to normal. So we're gonna try normal difficulty this time. Yeah, I have no idea why she wasn't using healing during hard mode. I'm pretty sure it's not to do with the difficulty, but I don't know. Okay, so now she's using almighty attacks, so she's going to be using Megidola. So this could be a bad thing, but we'll see. Okay, so brutal impact, and... Oh, jeez! Oh, that was such an inhale there, but... Holy crap, that was a lot of damage. That was a lot of damage. At least Akechi has Sama Recarm so he can revive fallen allies, so hopefully he revives, actually he's going to revive Ryuji first before On, but he should revive On so that way On can at least heal, but no, I think, when I had Morgana at least, Morgana would always revive Ryuji before On, so, let's see, Sama Recarm, and he's going to revive Ryuji first before On. Yeah, he's going to revive Ryuji first. Okay, we just lost Akechi. We just lost Akechi. Okay, good dodge, everyone. Unfortunately, she's going to heal Joker before she starts attacking. So that's the downside. And every time On or... Well, we just lost this fight. Well, okay, that's attempt number 3 failed, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Wow. She actually does a lot of damage during this fight, a lot more than I thought. Honestly, I always remember her being very easy. It's not too much of a big deal if Akechi goes down. The only downside if Akechi goes down is that we won't be able to revive fallen members. Okay, let's send Ryuji, see if he can be a good sniper with his shotgun. It was pretty close to him, so he had a better advantage than Akechi. Okay, so we just lost our reviver, so now it's just Ryuji and On. Holy okay. Okay. What do we do? Ryuji, please get good evades. Futaba, please heal with moral support. And Ryuji, end this fight in one shot if you can. And heal. Or defense up, sure, that works too for Taba. Jeez. Well, we lost. So yeah, her health is very damn low. Her health is so low. We're so close to finishing this damn fight. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna do a little bit of a poll. Should we switch to easy difficulty, or should we keep trying on normal? I love how the Futaba buff appears when Akechi's only part way falling down. Okay, so On, can you win this fight for us? Yay! On went down. I'm actually kind of happy she went down. So now we can actually gain the majority of the... Okay, Futaba, you're dragging out the fight more by healing Joker. Gatling gun, Agathion resists gun, so that's going to take very little damage. Alright, there we go, guys. That's the end of my attempts on normal difficulty. So normal difficulty is definitely possible, but due to the almighty slot, it just takes a lot of damage out of us. So I'm going to be switching it to easy difficulty. So just for the sake of my sanity, and just for the sake of gaining some... 20 more EXP than usual. We're going to switch back to easy difficulty. Thank you very much. And let's get going. Alright, Sainijima, I'm going to kick her butt. We're going to have like 50% less HP gone and 20% more experience out of it. So yeah, if you're crazy enough to do a run like this, please play on easy difficulty and get Ryuji's confidant up to rank 7 so you can at least grind with insta-kill. Don't do what I'm doing. If you're crazy enough to do a run like this, get insta-kill while you're in Madarame's palace and maybe get at least rank 3 with Mishima so that way you can gain more EXP than usual. And maybe allow yourself to switch up party members, and maybe allow yourself to use Joker, and maybe allow direct commands. You know, just play the game normally. The game's more fun when you can actually play the game normally and abuse the mechanics. Who would actually try this challenge even with insta-kill? There's nothing fun about this. It's just a 100-hour long session of CBT. I don't know what CBT stands for, but yeah. This run is definitely not worth it. I'd say if you were to try anything, maybe try an act freely run where everyone's on act freely, but allow yourself to use the other mechanics in the game. I'd say the only thing that's maybe worth trying is an act freely run, but even then, it's more fun when you can use direct commands on your party members. Wow, that's a lot of damage, but at least it was survivable. At least it was survivable. Can Ryuji end the fight? Is it possible, though? We did it! Woo! With Nijima beaten on easy difficulty and us ending up where the game started, we ended the Nijima arc at 85 saved hours, so about 14 hours straight with about 12 hours of grinding by doing absolutely nothing. And since I did very little reloads, this palace required the least amount of suffering, but that doesn't mean it was fun in the slightest. But we definitely grinded far more levels in Sae's palace than we did in Okumura's palace. And since we surpassed Yaldabaoth, I'm sure Shido's palace will go smoothly, right? Right? Alright, so we're going to be heading into the high spoilers of the game, so be sure not to spoil yourself because I do not want to ruin the game for you. But in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ding the bell for more Nitsa Gamer content, including for the upcoming Persona 4 Golden Without Taking Damage challenge run, which is going to be the next challenge run that I'm going to be doing for Persona-related content. Don't expect me to just do Persona-related content. I'm going to do a variety of content, and you guys better watch it because I suffer a lot for you, okay? I suffered for your sins, god damn it. Enough bragging about myself. Let's continue on to the Shido story arc. So after we tell Sae how we became the most wanted criminal by doing nothing, Sae demands the secrets of how we win by doing nothing. We tell her nothing, and Akechi comes in to make the guard nothing, and to make me nothing for doing absolutely nothing for grinding them up to nothing. So, how does Joker get out of this situation to prevent being nothing? By doing absolutely nothing and relying on his friends to save his ass for him. It works at cutscenes just as much as it does in gameplay. We soon find out the man responsible for our arrest is the same guy who made Joker depressed and dependent from the start, so we make him our next target, and yeah, there's really no point of hiding it. I'm sure you all saw this coming. Once we enter Shido's palace, we are stuck with only Ryuji and An, and no fourth party member for the entirety of Shido's palace. I don't think I need to go into an essay of how this is going to be a hindrance for this arc, but yes, we need to somehow complete Shido's arc with only Ryuji and An attacking. So on the initial infiltration, I go between the front deck and the entrance hall to grind out the enemies within the first room, and while there is one enemy who is weak to An's fire attacks, they are literally the only enemies weak to fire in the entire palace. And fighting within the entrance hall can be annoying as hell as the guard dog of Hades drains fire and has high counter. And since my party members love emptying out their guns first before trying any other attack, An is mostly stuck getting reflected at with high counter. And there was 2 fights where Ryuji would kill himself with God's hand because of high counter. But after that bit of grinding in the entrance hall, we get our intel on the 5 letters of recommendation where the game teases us into having Morgana back in the front lines, only to be back to An and Ryuji only later. Oh, and Kasume offers her help to join us, to which I say, hell yes, please join us, we really need you right now Kasume, we are down 1 party member.
We're delighted by the offer, but we really can't drag you into this any further.
Excuse me, Kasumi, Morgana and I need to have a little bit of a guy talk outside. So after a heartfelt conversation with my cat, we start the infiltration. There's not too much to say when it comes to the rat puzzles or the enemies, as the rat puzzles are simple to solve and a nice change of pace of having to fight all the time, and I avoid all enemies in favor of conserving my SP to get most of the palace done in day 1. So the only worthy things to talk about are the mini-bosses and the eventual grinding. Our first battle is with the politician. He will take 3 turns to use Concentrate, Tarukaja, and Rakunda, and a heavy ice attack on An, who of course is weak to ice. But aside from An getting hit once, it was really no big issue since An can use Dekaja on the attack buff, and both Ryuji and An are so overpowered that they can give a lot of damage. So outside of this one attack, the politician was not that much of a threat. The second battle is with the former noble, and this fight is made simple since he is weak to Ryuji's electric attacks. However, the most annoying part of this fight is that he will use everyone's favorite move from Persona 3 onto Ryuji, which can drag out the fight. But we won in 1 try with no KOs, so the former noble became a former battle. The TV station president will drain fire attacks, but his bodyguards are weak to electric. Sadly, Ryuji is only concerned about downing the enemies and not so much finishing them off, so this fight can drag a bit since the bodyguards do an all-party heal, but with some brute force, the TV station president was no issue. Now, when it comes to the IT company president, the most annoying move is when he inflicts Dizzy, as that decreases our accuracy and any attack will cause technical damage, and even if we get rid of the bodyguards, the IT president will summon backup. Thankfully, the lower his health gets, On and Ryuji will prioritize attacking him. And if Ryuji inflicts the IT president with shock, he will use God's Hand to get a lot of technical damage. With enough brute force and technical damage, we managed to get through this fight, though with most of our HP and SP gone. But all I had left to do was the 4 mini boss fights in the engine room. Sadly, we just do not have enough HP or SP to get past the heretic goats. So now that we have access to every safe room and shadow in the palace, I should probably talk about the grinding. As mentioned before, Narcissus at the start of the palace is only weak to fire, but they are the lowest leveled enemies mixed with an enemy that can cause high counter against us, so On's SP is best concerned for healing and damage potential. For Ryuji on the other hand, there are 2 enemies weak to electric. Fornius, who can be found on the rear deck, but it's entirely RNG if they appear at all when you ambush them. Honestly, I don't know where else he appears in the palace because I always insta-kill the enemies in my previous playthroughs. The second enemy, however, is the treasure demon, Emperor's Amulet. And as long as Ryuji and On can use their magical attacks in 2 turns, you can defeat the Emperor's Amulet. So make sure you have 24 or more SP on Ryuji and more than 50 SP on as she will stop using her magical attacks around 50 SP. And you also want to make sure that On doesn't prioritize healing over attacking, as you'll need both the all-out attack from Ryuji and the damage output from On to gain 3,000 experience points, albeit very little of it. But then again, we're getting so very little EXP regardless of what enemy we fight, since we're, once again, better than Yaldabaoth according to the game. The next day I try to clear at least 1/4 of the engine room, but after defeating the heretic goats, apparently Yusuke won't allow us to leave the engine room till we deal with the cleaner. And once we deal with the cleaner, we have 2 more battles against Akechi, so we have to do all 4 in 1 day. Now, I tried doing it on the second day, however, the cleaner comes with insta-kill attacks, which gives me so much PTSD from Okumura's palace. Such an unfair move. So while definitely feasible, I took the time to grind for this day just to be even more prepared for all 4 battles. But how do I go about the grinding? Well, we could go after the treasure demon once we confirm its hotspots throughout the palace, but I think the most efficient enemy to fight against is the strong shadow, Kali. Kali is able to charge her attack and buff her attack power, and while On can nullify the attack increase, Kali will cause heavy or severe physical damage, with Bloodbath having a low chance of inflicting fear. Now, as long as we're endurable enough and can take down her 1,773 HP, she should be a great source of EXP. Kali repels gun and nullifies fire, so Ryuji can use both physical and electric attacks, while On sadly only uses melee attacks. I've never been able to get her to use Lullaby against Kali, so I don't know if Kali nullifies sleep or not, but regardless, this fight was far more fair than every other shadow we face. The worst kind of attack is usually a charged up physical attack with critical damage, but being on easy difficulty, On can fully heal easily, making KOs rare and the need of reloading thankfully unnecessary. Kali doesn't do any insta-kill attacks, and while she can inflict fear to make On or Ryuji run away, the odds are low. And while On doesn't use Lullaby, Ryuji will use Electric, and with him still having Shock Boost, we have a good chance of shocking Kali for technical damage or to skip her turn. The only downside is that On's melee attacks have a chance of transferring Shock over, which can make KOs almost certain if Ryuji doesn't finish off Kali in time. The other downside though is that, similar to Anubis, Ryuji will stop using his magical attacks around 50 SP even though he only needs 12 SP to use it. This is likely because the AI feels the need to conserve their SP for anything more crucial like healing or exploring weaknesses that they already know of, so once Ryuji stops using his SP, we can use up that SP to find the treasure demons in some of the hotspots around the palace. One located on the rear deck just before the entertainment hall, one in the middle of where the first rat puzzle is in the mid-starboard hallway, one located next to the strong shadow in the southern east of the upper starboard hallway, and one located in the bottom corner of the entertainment hall. There might be more around the palace, but there's no documented record on these hotspots online. Actually, one time I got Crystal Skull instead of Emperor's Amulet. Sadly, On and Ryuji lacked the SP or the damage needed to defeat it, so we want to make sure that we only go for Emperor's Amulet since the AI will use what little SP they have if they know that the enemy is weak to that said affinity. Once Ryuji is under 25 SP, we can use what little we have left on the rear deck against Fornius. And that's the strategy for the grinding in Shido's palace. Honestly, a lot less repetitive than the grinding in Sae's palace, to be honest. Honestly, the lack of having a fourth party member really does not become that big of an issue since running out of SP means less time spent per day. The only issues is that the strong shadows do take a while to get to from any safe room as it requires you sneaking around shadows or turning off the rat trap in the last puzzle to fight one of them. So it's just a matter of finding whatever you're most comfortable with. And the other issue is that you have to deal with searchable objects not responding and the reliance on RNG to get the treasure demon to spawn. So most of the reloading is spent on trying to get a damn treasure demon to spawn. Both in searchable objects that I know they appear in, and searchable objects that I remember them appearing in, but could have been vanilla exclusive. Again, I usually breeze through this palace with insta-kills, so I never really kept track of these hotspots. On the 29th of November, I attempted to go through the engine room again. The heretic goats can be quite hectic if they inflict freeze, but because we're on easy difficulty, they are easy to defeat, just take a long time to take down, and they are a huge pain in the ass to deal with. The cleaner was a little problematic, but the good news is that we got through his insta-kills without being killed, and by the time we finished the cleaner, On and Ryuji's SP was already halfway down. But if we can breeze through the two Akechi fights, then this shouldn't be a problem. Except it is. The first part of the Akechi fight has us fighting two shadows, and of course, one happens to drain fire while the other drains electricity because why not? Once the shadows are gone, Akechi will be mainly focused on attacking Joker, who is thankfully guarding. But even though On and Ryuji were able to finish Akechi off, On was completely out of SP and Ryuji had very little on him. So once we got to the second fight against Akechi's true self, this is where, sadly, this run does whatever it can to kill whatever sanity I have left. Akechi will mainly focus on physical attacks and using Tetrakarn to repel physical attacks. Now, the Act Freely AI will attack with a physical wall activated once, and once they know Tetrakarn repels physical, they will guard for the next turn if they can't attack with magic skills. And because Ryuji will run out of SP, this fight is practically impossible to pass. So On and Ryuji will be doing the same goddamn thing that Joker has been doing the entire run. And that's only one of the three problems with this fight. The second is that Akechi will use Makar-Karn in the second half of the fight eventually, which repels magical attacks. And there's one move called Negative Pile which has a medium chance of inflicting Despair. And if anyone gets inflicted with Despair, we pretty much lose them as a party member since they die in 3 turns. So not only do we need to grind to get more SP so On and Ryuji can fight the second phase with magic skills, but we need to improve our stats with better hit points, damage potential with both physical and magical skills, and increase our accuracy and evasion rates, chances of crits or shocking the heretic goats, and endurance to avoid On healing too much. But is this even going to be possible once Akechi starts using Tetrakarn and Makar-Karn on himself? Well, the only answer to that is to do what I was hoping not to do. Grind till the last possible day we need to defeat Akechi. If we can get enough SP to the second phase to finish him off before he starts using both Tetrakarn and Makar-Karn, there might be a chance that On and Ryuji can finish Akechi off themselves. But we also need to go through the previous 3 fights just to get to the end. And no, we cannot do the heretic goats and save the cleaner for later, as Yusuke will prevent us from leaving the boiler room. And even if we were to break the rules and use a Go-Ho-Em, we can't. We have to do all 4 fights in one go. All without healing between battles and restoring our SP because some moron thought doing a run like this was a good fucking idea. You guys better subscribe and ding the bell for all the mental trauma I have to go through. After God who knows how many Strong Shadows killed, we grind till it's the 14th as there are only 4 days left of our deadline, and I was at level 89 with my 3 main party members. It takes like 2 days just to go up 1 level, so I didn't really bother with the grinding for the last 2 days I had left. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this or drag this out any more than I need to, but beating Dark Prince Akechi is impossible. No, I'm not joking. While yes, we can reach Akechi with more SP than usual, everything is reliant on not healing all the time and good RNG for most of our turns. And while yes, I had bad RNG like Ryuji missing God's Hand 3 times in a row, I did have some good attempts where I do get critical with the Heretic Goats and the Cleaner. However, during the 3rd fight, with On and Ryuji using multi-attacks including Blazing Hell which uses 54 SP, one enemy will drain the fire attack while the other drains electric. It doesn't matter how lucky or close we get by the time we reach the 4th boss fight against Akechi's true self. On is gonna run out of SP, and by the time we get Akechi down halfway on his health, he will use Makara card, making magical attacks go unused. And while On and Ryuji can do melee attacks, we are equipped with their default equipment from way back in Kamoshida's palace. So unless Joker intentionally gets rid of the magic barrier, On and Ryuji are barely doing any damage before they eventually get KO'd themselves. There's only so much God Hands that Ryuji can use, and Futaba's moral support is pure RNG, so we can't tell her to give us Heat Riser or heal in on command. And despite literally being 28 levels above Akechi, we're just not making any progress due to Joker not doing anything and the lack of having a 4th party member. I've been at this fight for hours, on 2 separate long nights. Even with multiple attempts from the previous fights in the hope that On can enter the battle with more SP on her, but every attempt was fruitless and we were barely getting to a quarter of Akechi's health left. This might be possible if we had grinded on easy difficulty from the start, or maybe if the RNG gods had favored us in every single turn, but realistically, nothing we can do is possible. Akechi was impossible to beat at level 89 on easy difficulty. So, as much as it sucks to say this, I can all but confirm, no. It is impossible to beat Persona 5 Royal by doing absolutely nothing. And considering this run ends against the son of the man who is responsible for making Joker feel like he has to do nothing, it just comes to show you that the main theme of Persona 5 cannot be contradicted with. The point of Persona 5 is to have the power to stand up against corruption and the obstacles that hold you back. And this run, after over 96 saved hours and hundreds of reloaded attempts, I can definitely confirm, no. We cannot beat Persona 5 Royal by having Joker do absolutely nothing. That said, we've come so far, I might as well keep going all the way to the true ending. I made 2 separate saves, one where I do the entire engine room on safe difficulty, and one where I do it with a 4th party member on easy difficulty. The attempt on safe difficulty went very smooth. We received the same amount of damage as we would on easy difficulty, but can cause 60% more damage than usual. This breezed us through the fights fast. But even on safe difficulty, we did lose a round against Akechi due to him inflicting despair with negative pile. Yeah, that's how brutal Akechi is when you have no control over the game. So, I take the game over without retrying mid-fight, and thankfully we can beat Akechi with only 3 party members on safe difficulty. So, technically we can continue the run by doing nothing within the rule sets we have. The only problem is, safe difficulty is a permanent option we can't switch out of once we select it. The option to change the difficulty won't even appear in the configurations menu, and while yes, I can just continue the rest of the run on safe difficulty, honestly, I want to keep this run interesting by allowing myself to play on easy difficulty, which I think I've proven is the new hard difficulty, as normal was physically impossible against Sae Arc. But if I want to play the rest of the game on easy difficulty, I would have had to have gotten past Akechi in the boiler room by doing nothing on easy difficulty. So, for just this one occasion, I decided to add a fourth party member, and the member I ended up choosing is... Makoto Nijima. If you don't count the showtimes with Ryuji, Makoto was only used during her Awakening battle and hasn't been used in any other battle since the Showtime tutorial. She is at level 79 with all of her skills learned. These skills include Severe and Heavy Nuke with Nuke Amp, Flash Bomb, Defense Master so she always starts around with a defense buff, 2 healing skills making her the second best healer of the game after Morgana, an Energy Shower which has the attribute of Cure and Despair, and she can increase the chances of Ryuji and On inflicting Burner Shock, though these ailments can only be used on the Heretic Goats. And with her having the second best default equipment just below Haru, Makoto is our best option to get us through these fights. And it can be summed up as this. Having 2 party members only attacking sucked, but having 3 of them attack while having 2 healers made the whole thing a breeze. Enemies go down faster, and we were able to pull off a cool exploit during Akechi's first phase. Usually when you finish the 2 shadows, Akechi will run into place, then you gotta fight him. However, one of the enemies is weak to electric, and if you down him and kill him in an all-out attack, this will straight up skip the phase with Akechi entirely, saving us some SP. Now, if only that happened during my attempts with On and Ryuji, but whatever, let's move on. For the final round, this whole thing was a breeze. Akechi did not inflict anyone with despair once, and even if we were low on health, we had 2 healers and plenty of physical attacks coming Akechi's way. Makoto will do far more melee and gun damage than the others, and with healing being a constant thing, Ryuji will always go for God's Hand first if he's fully healed. So, with the addition of Makoto, the entire engine room was mostly a breeze. So while it's not possible to beat Akechi by doing nothing on easy difficulty, it is possible on safe difficulty, and it is possible on easy if we have the option to add party members, which I banned because that counts as doing something, which I know a lot of you have protested against, and for a very damn good reason. But the whole point of this run is to combine dozens of challenge run ideas into one where the player has no control over the game. Hopefully all that grinding in Shido's Palace was worth it, because Akechi should be glad that I prolonged his unfortunate death. Oh yeah, spoilers, Akechi dies here. So once we finish the engine room, we put Makoto back in the backlines, secure the route, and head home. The 3-day failsafe for the calling card applies to Shido, so we send the calling card and go change Shido's heart on the 5th at level 89. But is it possible to beat Shido on easy difficulty by doing nothing? Well, before we make our first move, the greatest redemption story arc of all time happens. That's right. After completely ditching us for Okumura's palace, Morgana is back in the front lines with Ryuji and On. But why? Well, apparently Shido's boss fight forces you to have a full party if you happen to have 3 members or less, and since Morgana is the highest unselected character on the stat screen, he gets automatically added to the front lines and joins us in the fight against Shido. So yeah, the greatest redemption arc of the Doing Nothing run is Goro Akechi. While yes, he did sort of fail our run, he was also a saving grace for leaving our party because this one action alone gave us Morgana back, the only party member who can learn all of his Confidant abilities, the best healer and only reviver of the group, and with Wind Boost and Amp and Heavy Wind, Morgana is finally gonna carry us throughout the rest of this run. But don't think you're forgiven, you stupid cat. we still have that football game to go to with a certain someone's fiance. Anyway, with Morgana at level 80 and everyone else at 89, Shido was a breeze. He repels physical and gun for the first phase, resists magical for the second phase, and only resists gun for the third phase. And with the amount of damage potential we have, we breeze through the 3 phases no problem. And the same thing with Samuel and True Samuel. My party is just so strong that Shido was barely a threat. Morgana and An will heal when needed. Morgana can also cure ailments while doing an all-party heal with Salvation, and An can use Dekaja to nullify Shido's Heat Riser. See, as annoying as that skill was in Madarame's palace, Dekaja is a skill worth keeping. Once True Samuel gets to a quarter of health left, he will force all of your allies out of the fight, meaning we have to do the last quarter of this fight Joker only. And unfortunately, this also applies to Futaba not being able to use moral support as well. But as stated before, if we have to do it Joker only, then we're gonna do it Joker only with the weakest chariot persona on our side. And let me just say, this fight was awesome. This felt more like what the developers were intending the fight to be played out as. It took 9 minutes to finish Shido because I had to focus on keeping Joker healed while also attacking back. My first thought was to use magic and physical ointments to repel damage back. However, this was a bad idea. Shido never uses physical attacks during this entire fight against Joker, and repellent magic does about the same amount of damage as hitting him with light electric attacks. And I didn't realize it during the fight, but there's a pattern here. He will go for these elemental attacks in order, while alternating between Heat Riser and Tyrant's Judgment. I didn't realize the order till after the fight, so what you need to do is take every attack like a boss. Wind is your only biggest problem, as he can exploit Agathion's weakness and hit you with Tyrant's Judgment, which, for the record, is an almighty attack, not a physical attack. Wind and Tyrant's Judgment is enough to take half a Joker's HP, so you gotta be careful, guard, fully heal, or use a magic ointment here. But make sure to save enough ointments for at least one more Joker-only fight in the third semester. Electricity is the least of your worries, as Joker will either resist the attack or use the dodge electric skill, which is only usable when Joker is not guarding. And if Joker gets burn or freeze, he'll either resist it with Agathion's trait Rare Antibody or use Maruki's Detox. I go between using beads, bead chains, and life stones to heal Joker. Zio to attack anywhere between 50 to 80 hit points, Tarukaja to buff attack, or Rakukaja to buff defense. This 9-minute Joker fight is honestly the most fun I've had in this entire run since... No, honestly, this is the best part of the Do Nothing run. So with one more light electric from the weakest chariot persona, Shido is done and we have beaten Shido's palace while mostly doing nothing. The final phase with Shido could be bypassed if we have repelled affinities for the last 4 skills, but for obvious reasons, that's not in our rule set. And the fight against Dark Akechi could be plausible on easy difficulty, but the wait for the perfect RNG is ridiculously high. But technically, it is possible on safe difficulty, so we're going to continue on with the rest of the run without bending any more rules while still remaining on easy difficulty. You could say that the run is forfeit by this point, but you know deep down, you want to see this run go all the way through to the ultimate checkmate maneuver. So, with both the father and son who ruined Luigi's life behind bars or eating pancakes in heaven, we're gonna move forward to the depths of mementos. So after changing Shido's heart, we appear to not be getting the attention we deserve from the public, so we decide to make them our next target for not considering us special. We then max out our confidant with Morgana, the only party member who can learn his second and third awakening for the entire run. And with a nullification to wind and a resistance to bless, we also gain triple the evasion to electric for him. And yes, once we enter mementos about 97.5 saved hours into the run, we can confirm that Morgana does get added to the front lines thanks to Shido's boss fight, so we're back to the original 4 we've had since Futaba's Palace, but this time with one of them having their confidant abilities. Now, let's go terrorize the public, shall we? As mentioned before, all Mementos requests are banned outside of the mandatory one against Madarame's former pupil, and on the 24th of December, all Mementos requests that would usually be blocking our path will be removed for the entire day. Told you they were optional, but yes, this means, starting from the end of the block containing Kamoshida enemies, we have to go down the entirety of Mementos, going down 5 additional blocks we've never explored. Well, yes, this might sound repetitive as hell, it really isn't. First, it's always faster to just open up your map and fast travel to the lower level instead of driving to the platform. And honestly, this is a nice change of pace of having to fight all the time. All enemies are under-leveled, so they all run from us. The only enemies that I occasionally fight along the way is the strong shadows and the treasure demons. And once we enter a restroom or the ended platform of each block, we can always fast travel to the entrance and ask Caroline to fully restore our HP and SP. Which means running out of SP is never an issue for us for the rest of this day.
But Nitha, doesn't talking to Caroline count as doing something?
Shut up! I also go for every chest in the hopes of finding revival beads. Sadly, I found none on the way down. This took about an hour and 6 minutes to reach the depths, which honestly was a lot less than I was expecting. Anyway, the Depths of Mementos is the shortest palace, but also a very unique one. It shows how society has grown dependent and feels too depressed and unmotivated to do anything to change the world. Instead, they rather stand back, cower in fear, and let everyone else solve the problems for them. Like, come on, how is that in any way efficient, people? Along the way, we come across a chest with the Dark Cutlass, which Morgana asks if he can equip. Now, I should probably address the elephant in the room with my rules on equipment, as some of you might have noticed this. Every single character has had their default equipment from the start, so we've always been attacking with the lowest level melee and gun and have been wearing the protectors ever since their awakening battles. However, that's partially not true. In Kamoshida's palace, I've changed Joker and Ryuji's melee weapon after getting them from a chest within the first palace. However, I kid you not, these have been the only weapons in the entire game I can get without having to unlock a locked chest, which I banned despite having one lockpick in my inventory. And only now, in the second last palace of the game, does a melee weapon appear in a chest without a lock on it. And while this weapon does have superior attack power, I think we've been going through this minimalist challenge fine without the need to upgrade our melee power, so just to make this run interesting, I'm gonna ban this half-ass exceptional rule from this point on and stick with Morgana's crappy banded sword. I know I'm gonna regret this later somehow. It only takes about 44 minutes to reach the temple in the deepest part of the depths. The only issue that I've run into along the way is me relying too much on running from enemies instead of stealthing my way around them, which caused me to end up in 3 different fights from one ambush, not once, but twice. The only mini-boss that was a bit of a pain was Throne. He nullifies wind and fire and can insta-kill with Bless. I ended up losing on before we finished the enemies off, but thankfully, my allies getting KO'd is not a big worry since I can fast travel from a safe room and restore HP and SP anytime, so any reloading I do mostly never happens in this palace. Once we reach the final safe room, this is the moment where we're at the best moment we can possibly be at to grind. With access to all of Mementos, the Reaper, and the Depths of Mementos, we can endlessly grind on the 24th as we're locked in here till we go after the Holy Grail in the temple. And with Caroline providing a full HP and SP recovery as if we moved on to the next day, this is our opportunity to not only overlevel, but to completely max out my party to level 99. If we do it, we should be at the highest possible HP and SP capacity and the highest stats for not only the fight against Yaldabaoth, but also for the 3rd semester, which will lack the Warden's consideration. Now, if you were like me, you were probably thinking that the best enemy to grind for EXP is the Reaper Mementos, right? Well, let's see how that turns out. For the most part, my party is very endurable and can do a good amount of damage. The only problem is Morgana himself. He's a saving grace because he can fully heal, cure ailments, revive fallen allies at 75% HP, and can endure an insta-kill or mortal blow once per battle. However, once the Reaper reaches to a quarter of health, he starts spamming multi-insta-kill attacks, and needless to say, while Morgana can survive one insta-kill attack, everyone else can't. And if Morgana gets KO'd, there's not much we can do as the Reaper will keep spamming multi-insta-kill attacks. So, does this mean the Reaper is impossible unless we nullify insta-kill attacks? Probably, but another thing to consider is our overall damage output and endurance. Morgana takes the most amount of damage than everyone else, and while Morgana is naturally one of the least endurable characters, this is also because he's underleveled from the Reaper. The expected level for the Reaper is level 85, and while Joker, On, and Ryuji are above that level, Morgana is below it. There's a whole page on the wiki that explains how damage and endurance works in the game, which I recommend checking out because there's a lot of math to explain when it comes to having the right level to fight certain enemies. So if we really want to do damage and have a chance of beating the Reaper, we actually need to level up within the depths first before attempting the Reaper. According to the way that damage is handled in the game, if we increase a user's level 10 levels or higher than the enemy, they will always do 1.5 times the damage, and right now, none of us are 10 levels higher than the Reaper. So unfortunately, if we theoretically want a chance, we need to grind in the depths. But where's the strong shadow within the depths, you ask? Well, apparently there's only one strong shadow in the depths of Mementos, and it comes after the prison cell where you find your previous targets in, but before the middle passageway safe room. So first, we fully heal at the entrance, go to the middle passageway safe room, fight maybe 2 or 3 shadows on the way to the strong shadow. The only enemies that poses a threat is the sacrificial Pyro Keeper as they drain fire and resist electric and wind. So if you get 2 of these enemies, it's best just to escape from the battle. Thankfully, the other shadows are either weak to fire or wind, and Lilith can be a disaster shadow allowing you to defeat every enemy with ease. And then, we face the strong shadow himself, the Great Mighty Pooh. A level 75 shadow with the strongest physical attacks in the game. He also has a passive skill to increase the odds of freeze as he can cast Mabufadine, not only getting a 1 more from hitting On's weakness, but also freezing your party with a physical attack being able to exploit a technical. He also has Dizzy Boost and Flash Bomb to inflict Dizzy where any attack causes a technical. And then there's Evil Smile, which is the #1 move that prevented me from being able to grind against the strong shadow in Sae's palace. However, even though we do suffer once in a while from members running away from battle in fear, I don't reload a save and just live with the loss in EXP. If we do lose EXP, I'm not entirely sure. Especially since we're leveling up and fully restoring HP and SP every time. And thankfully, Morgana can cure any ailments with salvation, even if everyone is above 50% HP. The Great Mighty Pooh will drain physical and gun attacks, but he is neutral to fire, electric, and wind. Although On will prioritize using Lullaby on the Pooh instead of Augidine. The only exception where she burns the big pile of shit is if Ryuji inflicts shock. So for every round of grinding, we fully heal with Caroline, warp to the middle passageway safe room, make our way to the strong shadow by fighting 2 shadows at the least, fight the Great Mighty Pooh, fight the shadow down below, head to the passageway safe room, heal with Caroline, rinse and repeat. And we're gonna keep doing this till Morgana is levels above the Grim Reaper and everyone else is 10 levels or higher for the damage potential. However, even with the levels gained, we do have one annoying problem. Once the Reaper is low on his health, the Act Freely AI will only rely on their melee attacks instead of using their superior heavy magical skills. What a great time to turn down the Dark Cutlass, huh, Morgana? And because of the stupidly programmed AI alone, this fight is just not really that possible to pass without the perfect RNG to avoid insta-kill attacks. So I decided to grind more to increase everyone's strength stat. So I got Joker, Ryuji, and On to level 98 and Morgana to level 91. And we go after the Reaper again, where the first round ends with a bullshit insta-kill. But with some very damn good RNG and luck, my party managed to finally kill the Reaper while Joker does absolutely nothing. Morgana levels up 2 levels and the others don't level up at all. Yeah, the Reaper did not push us to level 99, so if anything, the Reaper is just a slight faster method of leveling up with a high chance of failing. Otherwise, we never reload against the Great Mighty Pooh of Mementos, so I grind against the big pile of scats some more till Joker, Ryuji, and On reach level 99, which took us a total save time of 106 hours and 14 minutes, all without Mishima or Jose's EXP buffs or insta-kill. Killing the Reaper only once, and the Great Mighty Pooh killed 52 times. So here is the final HP and SP capacity for On and Ryuji, and their persona's highest stats, as we will be unable to improve them from this point forward. So from here, you know how the story goes. We fail to destroy the Holy Grail despite all the grinding, we fight the twins Joker only but actually win by doing nothing, the twins fuse into Lavenza, and Igor turns out to be the RNG god within the Holy Grail. We tell him that we want nothing to do with him, and we find out that the RNG god has rigged a game where Joker's confrontation with Shido has cursed him into being unable to do anything, and has to rely on his allies to do everything. And the only way to break this curse is to kill the RNG god himself and erase the metaverse. So we return to Shibuya on
The Day of Reckoning,
where we find out that the RNG god has renovated the depths of Mementos above ground, and with this renovation comes an axe free of charge which I want nothing to do with, an ambush with a gay orgy, and 4 fights against the Archangels. Not much to say since we endure the damage like a badass and we can fully restore our HP and SP with Lavenza when needed. There was one recontra move that set the last Archangel Michael to full health, but with 2 lucky crits from Ryuji, we stand before the Shrine of the Holy Grail. But I don't take him on just yet. I can pretty much guarantee that we won't use Yusuke, Makoto, or Haru for the rest of the run. And since this is the last time we can fully restore HP and SP at the entrance, we're gonna grind against the 2 strong shadows near the end of the shrine entrance. Fast travel to the Shibuya crossing, heal, save, reload, and repeat. This will be faster than grinding against the 1 strong shadow within the depths, and it's our best opportunity to max out Morgana and as much as we can of Agathion. We really only need to level Agathion up for his endurance stats, since luck and agility are worthless unless Joker is attacked when he's not guarding. Right now, Morgana being maxed is our main goal before we fight the RNG god. And by main goal, I mean I only leveled him up to 96 because I was getting PTSD from grinding while listening to Life Will Change for 2 hours straight. It's bad enough that this run has ruined Takeover for me, I don't need Life Will Change Ruin 2. So with Morgana at level 96, we did our first attempt up against the RNG god, and holy crap, we take a lot of damage from this cup. Thankfully, we can cut the veins, fully heal between On and Morgana, guard for the charged up attack, and beat the cup with about half of Morgana's SP gone. And then, the RNG god transforms into Yaldabaoth, a level 75 boss fight who can do a good amount of damage, but my party does better damage. At first it seems like the fight for humanity was gonna go smoothly, until Yaldabaoth brings out the deadly sins. Now, to go into depths of what the 4 deadly sins do will take forever, but the problem in this fight is not so much the attacks and incurable ailments, but the problem comes down to bad AI and their SP running out fast. The AI will focus on a singular target like the gun, sword, bell, and book, before randomly changing their mind and targeting something else. Well, yes, they will target Yaldabaoth himself. On and Morgana will either be too focused on healing or attacking the deadly sins instead of the main boss himself. they will not go for a specific target if they know their attacks will repel, which, yeah, sounds like common sense, but this prevents them from multi-attacking, which would have been useful for Morgana because he will nullify wind if wind repels back at him. Ryuji, on the other hand, is a little smarter. He's the only party that I have with his elemental break skill, and with the sword repellent physical, gun, and electric, Ryuji will go for a multi-electric attack as long as the nullification break is active, but regardless of how much we get rid of the daily sins, Yaldabaoth will manifest the sins back to 50% health every time. And with this being an endless cycle, we'll be stuck to a point where my party will just use melee attacks on the sins while being unable to attack the sword, and because of that, there's barely gonna be damage dealt to Yaldabaoth. On the first attempt, Yaldabaoth was down to half HP, and on the second attempt, we got past halfway through the fight. However, even if I did level Morgana to level 99, I really don't think that's going to make much of a difference, guys. Just like the fight against Dark Akechi, unless we have the perfect RNG to evade every attack and have Futaba buffing Heat Riser and healing constantly, there's no possible way to defeat Yaldabaoth by doing nothing on easy difficulty. And we got a full party with one of them having their second awakening, but try as you might, I think this is where the run truly ends. So no, we cannot be Persona 5 Royal by doing absolutely nothing. On easy difficulty, that is. We still have one more difficulty to try. The problem is, once we're on safe difficulty, there's no turning back. So, I think it's time we stop pretending that easy difficulty is the lowest difficulty setting, because at this point, this run's already proved that easy is impossible thanks to Dark Akechi. So the main question now comes down to if safe difficulty is possible. And if safe difficulty isn't possible, then holy crap, the developers made a harder game than us Persona 5 veterans give this game credit for. So, safe difficulty it is from this point forward. While safe difficulty allows an extra 30% more EXP gain, the noticeable saving grace is the extra 60% damage, so the main rule is that we'll do Yaldabaoth and the third semester on safe difficulty, but we're not allowed to retry during battle. If we get KO'd during battle, we have to live with it and reset, or otherwise, there's no run to prove if I just infinitely retry in mid-battle. So, Yaldabaoth on safe difficulty is about the same as easy, except we do far more damage. The cup goes down faster, and the individual sins go down faster, making our attacks against Yaldabaoth himself actually hit the damn boss. The only new thing to mention is when we get his health low enough. He will use Divine Apex with all of his sins regenerated as he takes 2 turns to charge up a powerful attack. Our party will waste 2 turns guarding, and once the Rays of Control hit, it nearly kills everyone and Morgana only survives thanks to Endure. Ryuji uses Electric Break so he can do the multi-attack, and Morgana gets a showtime at the worst possible timing to get a showtime. On fully heals Morgana, gets reflected and kills herself. Holy shit, and then we get the Daily Sins attacking, which Morgana thankfully evades. Ryuji nearly dies. Ryuji guards due to the book preparing for counter. Morgana recarms on alive, and on fully heals Morgana. The book returns to normal. We survive the next few attacks, and our party will actually be focusing on defeating Yaldabaoth instead of healing. Even with Divine Apex activated again, my party gives the last attacks they got to defeat Yaldabaoth. Holy crap, I did not expect this to be so tight on safe difficulty. We nearly died, but we made it possible. Wow, that got really intense at the end. So, the public finally comes to their senses that they need to stop depending on other people to solve the problems for them and rely on us to solve this problem for them. Yeah, really nothing has changed, has it? Which allows Joker to break the chains that held him down, allowing him to break the doing nothing curse. And with one actual move of Joker doing something without the pressure of fighting solo, we can confirm that yes, it is possible to beat Persona 5 by doing absolutely nothing on safe difficulty. that is the vanilla ending. Unfortunately for me, there is still one more chapter of this game left to go, because clearly, the pain just won't end. And since Yaldabaoth is impossible on easy difficulty, we're gonna do the entire third semester on safe difficulty. Can we do it? Well, let's endure the torture for one more chapter and find out. So, oh my god. I am so sorry this video is going to be so long, but hopefully it's all worth it and hopefully you're enjoying it. So anyway, we're going to be heading into the third semester, which I do not want to spoil. So this is going to be high spoiler territory. If you have not played the third semester, please stop at this point. I do not want to ruin the third semester for you. But in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ding the bell for more Nitsa Gamer content. So, hopefully you guys are ready for one last chapter. Let's see if we can do the third semester on safe difficulty by doing absolutely nothing. So, if you're at this point of the video, you should already be spoiler-free on the third semester content. So, let's just jump into the palace. On January 2nd, Joker goes into the mysterious palace with Akechi and Kasumi. They both start off at level 75, so needless to say, grinding will still happen even though we maxed out Joker. We open up a chest at the start of the palace which contains 3 revival beads. Okay, time to reload a save and save this chest for later when we do the final boss fight. Now, with the first battle, we start to see one of the big problems with Akechi. Akechi will use 2 moves that use up his HP, one being a physical base move and the other being a gun base move, and he only has 1 curse attack that attacks a singular enemy. While the upside is that he starts off with an automatic Tarakaja, he's downgraded from what he was in Sae Nijima's palace. He lacks the Bless skills and Samarikarm to revive fallen allies, and while Evade Bless is a good passive skill to have, he's more of a brute force party member who will end up getting himself killed in battles. Which I guess is fitting for Akechi's character, but it will make for a frustrating experience when he's set on Act Freely, especially if the enemies repel his physical or gun-based attacks. Kasumi only has 1 skill to learn, although Brave Step is useless as party members never use support skills aside from Dekaja, and you can't crit the final boss fight. She has a mix of physical skills with Out Pupil for crits, and Bless attacks with Bless Amp, and what really makes her great is Ollie Dance, which increases her evasion to almost every attack in the game, including almighty attacks. And just like On, Kasumi can fully heal 1 party member per turn. She's essentially like On, only with lower magic power, but with physical skills and a higher critical rate, and a higher evasion rate. So overall, she's a really great party member to have. Once we go through the second battle, Kasumi thankfully heals Akechi enough so he's just barely fully healed before the big mid-boss fight of this day. We find out that Maruki is the palace ruler and that he's the cool and new antagonist that has put the do-it-nothing curse back on Joker, but with the upside being that Joker and his friends will live a happy life with no traumas or an unfair society. Joker, of course, wants to break the do-it-nothing curse, and Akechi just doesn't want to be controlled again. However, Kasumi, who we find out to be Samire, can't live with her trauma and goes with Maruki. So, now we gotta fight a boss fight with only Akechi attacking.
Keep up, and don't embarrass me.
Oh. Oh. So this fight against the Warped Abyss sucks. Like, really sucks. He will either start off with an almighty attack or a wind attack, and of course wind is Agathion's main weakness, so the Warped Abyss sometimes starts off with a 1 more. And he will nullify Akechi's curse attack, which Akechi will always go for first. And Akechi will be wasting his HP using both his gun and physical skills. And while it helps enough, Akechi will barely get the Warp Abyss's health down to a point where we can automatically win the fight with a Showtime attack. And with nobody being able to heal, once Akechi is down, we can either guard with Joker until Joker goes down, which takes frickin' forever, or we can close down the game and start off from the safe room, which is the fastest method of retrying the fight. This took me so long to do, guys. So what I had to do was grind on the 2 shadows that appear outside the safe room and the 1 treasure demon from a hotspot in the entrance hall. The treasure demon, with the most sticky and sweet name ever, is weak to bless attacks, so Kasumi and Akechi can take down the treasure demon no problem. From here, we need to grind on shadows in the entrance hall, which thankfully are easy to finish off. You'll either get the deformed Lion Guard, which can high counter Kasumi's gun attacks, but he is weak to curse, making him an easy kill. The killer teddy bears are easy to finish off, and the Wandering Reviver is weak to bless, so we grind until both Kasumi and Akechi are out of SP, and reload if Akechi gets hit or uses his physical or gun skill. The reason why we need to get rid of Akechi's SP is because he will always go for Curse first, which the boss nullifies, and for whatever reason, the Act Freely Akechi never uses Almighty. And I mean never uses it. So we had to grind until Akechi is unable to use his curse attacks, which was easier said than done, because Kasumi and Akechi cannot finish off the killer teddy bear and the Wandering Reviver in time. So to assure Akechi doesn't get hit, I always escape from the battle with the Wandering Reviver, and at best, Kasumi will be able to kill the killer teddy bear enough for us to gain a little bit of EXP. We just keep trying and reloading till we only get the deformed Lion Guard so Akechi can use his SP. Once Akechi uses up all of his SP, we grind on the killer teddy bears and escape from the battle until Akechi reaches level 78. But even with Akechi being a few levels better and him being unable to use Curse, this fight took frickin' forever. I kid you not, this fight was giving me PTSD from having to fight Okumura's division managers. It was that bad. Akechi will either be inflicted with fear, causing him to skip his turn, and Akechi needed to do about 3 evasions in order to make this fight possible. This part of the 3rd semester took the longest to get through, and it was really aggravating. And the only way Akechi can go any higher in level is if we surpass level 75 during Sae Nijima's palace, because apparently Akechi always starts the 3rd semester at level 75, but he will be at a higher level if we had grinded him past level 75 in Sae's palace. Sadly, we were only 3 levels under 75 with him while grinding in Sae's palace on easy difficulty, so... oh god, how long is this gonna take?
You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires. You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires. You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires. You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires. You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires.
You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires. You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires. You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires.
Joker's back! Time to retire. Damn it. Why did I do that?
Cat.
So, no! That's friggin' Tarmadonchi!
So, after 4 to 5 hours of grinding and constant failed attempts, Akechi finally defeats the Warped Abyss to do a Showtime attack with Joker and finally ending this nightmare. From here, we can only hope it doesn't get worse than that. So Akechi tells me to go round up my friends to help save Sumire 1 week from now, but since the Doing Nothing curse is put back on Joker again, Joker brings none of his friends on the 9th. Should have seen that coming, Akechi. Anyway, we jump in and tell Maruki that we don't want his 3rd semester content, but unfortunately for us, we're gonna get it anyway. And now, we head into the final Joker-only fight of the run. Attacking a girl with severe trauma and guilt so she can shut up. Here, we can use up whatever physical or magical ointments we have left. However, being on safe difficulty, we repel so little damage back at her that we're better off just attacking with light electric. Samiri attacks with Sword Dance and Heavy Bless, and she will also charge up her physical attack and use Brave Step to increase her critical rate. So we carefully use the light electric and heal when needed. Once she is low enough on her health for just one more hit, we fully heal, hope she uses Brave Step or Charge so we can end the fight with Joker's health fully healed. Next, Akechi and Joker fight her persona, Centralon, along with Maruki's help. This fight is designed to be unwinnable as Centralon will constantly drain the HP of the summoned enemies. Thankfully, in the nick of time, our party comes to the rescue, and here is where everything flipped upside down for me. Looking back at my footage of the No Social Stat run, Ryuji and Morgana got automatically added to the party, which made sense since they were the highest party members on the stat select screen. However, I ended up getting Ryuji and On instead.
Oh, this was not how this was supposed to go!
So I reloaded and did the whole Samiri and Centralon boss fight again, and no, I still ended up with Ryuji and On, and I have no explanation for why the game automatically selects them. My best guess is that it takes whoever is the highest leveled party member going down the stat screen, because remember, I only leveled Morgana to level 96 while Ryuji and On were maxed. This is only a theory, but if I had maxed out Morgana, I probably would have been able to get him automatically added to the fight, but I also don't want to grind for 5 hours straight just to find out that he doesn't get added to the party anyway. So sadly, we cannot use Morgana for the entirety of the third semester because never have I had nice things in this entire damn run. I thought you were creating a happy reality, Maruki. This is false advertising. Anyway, with a maxed out Ryuji and On, and Futaba providing buffs, this fight against Centralon goes smoothly. Morgana awakens to his third awakening because the game is mocking me, though the only real benefit from the third awakening is that Diego's trait allows it to decrease SP cost when using healing skills, which would have been so damn useful, but of course we can't have that. But it only gets weirder from here. As we know, when Akechi joins the team in Sae's Palace, he is selectable as a party member, but doesn't get automatically added till you do his Sword of Awakening battle. However, this is not the case with Samiri. When we meet her at the entrance on the third initial infiltration, she automatically replaces On, who is the third party member going down the stat screen and levels above Akechi. So once we do Samiri's True Awakening battle, we have Ryuji, Akechi, and Samiri as our party members for the rest of the game from this point forward. This was not what I was expecting. I was expecting Ryuji, Morgana, and Samiri. Ryuji and Morgana would have showed up in the Centralon fight, and Samiri would have replaced Akechi for her True Awakening battle. However, looking back at my footage of the No Social Stat run, Samiri does replace Morgana, only for me to add him back in, and I didn't think to check this part of the No Social Stat run footage, as I thought only the Awakening battles had an effect on changing your party members, but no, Samiri will replace whoever is the lowest party member above Akechi at the entrance, as the developers clearly want you to use Akechi and Samiri as much as possible. Because of that, even if we did max out Morgana in the depths of Mementos, Samiri would only replace Morgana and we would still have Ryuji, Samiri, and Akechi anyway. So, thank God I did not spend the extra hours grinding while ruining Life Will Change for myself. Because yes, this is the final team for the rest of the run, and while Samiri was expected and has great skills, Akechi is not really the best party member, as he's a brute force party member who won't use his almighty attacks on Act freely, and Ryuji is the weakest magic user of the group. The only upside with Akechi and Sumire is that they have far superior default equipment, and Akechi does not use the same default equipment from Sae's palace. He does automatically get equipped with better equipment for Maruki's palace. And Ryuji has a baton pass rank 2, so we just gotta somehow beat the entire third semester without multi-healing skills, ailment curing skills, and no confidant abilities. Oh well, let's just get this done and over with. On this initial infiltration day, we need to beat 2 mandatory mini-bosses. The first one is the shadow with the ID card, but these shadows were an easy defeat. I did a little bit of grinding for the second fight since you'll be automatically kicked out of the palace once you defeat the second mini-boss, but this was a bad idea as you'll need Sumire's SP to heal your party members, and being the dumbass I was, my backup save was on the 2nd of January before
You've made clear that you reject the reality she desires.
that fight. This fight took me 2 tries as Akechi dies during this fight. Gee, I wonder why. But having Ryuji and one of these shadows being weak to electric is a saving grace as we got through this fight and ended this day. January 13th is when you can start doing whatever you want, including getting 3rd awakening skills and completing the second half of Sumire's Confidant. Ha, wouldn't that be nice? However, we can only listen to so many apologies as the guy who does nothing as we enter the new block of mementos. Now, here's an interesting fact that most of you may not know. Remember those mementos requests that would usually be blocking our path to the next block and how we were able to turn all of them off on the 24th of December? Well, the ones on the railroad are back, but the ones on the platform are not. So does this mean we are permanently locked out of doing these requests? Well, here's the thing. I had no mementos requests given to me during the 3rd semester, and yet I had requests appearing on the railways of the final block, and apparently there's 6 of them. This is unusual since there's only 4 mementos requests exclusive to the 3rd semester, but then it dawned on me what these mementos requests are. By entering the first one, we could face the sadism request that would usually block our path back in June. So yeah, all 6 mementos requests that you would fight on the platforms get moved to this final block as a failsafe if you've never beaten them prior to the deaths of mementos. I like challenge runs like this because you can always learn something new. Unlike actually doing this challenge run. But anyway, we get to the end of the new block so we can continue our infiltration in Maruki's palace. But before heading back, we do some grinding. The new block has the enemies from the depths of mementos, so you're probably thinking, why not grind against the Great Mighty Pooh for the best experience gain? I'll tell you why not. Because the big pile of RNG crap drains physical, gun, curse, and resist bless. And even though Sumire can still cause damage with bless, and Akechi has an almighty skill, they will only guard, leaving Ryuji to attack with electric only. I have no idea why Akechi refuses to use almighty attacks, but just like On using Lullaby over Dormina, let's just come to the conclusion that Atlas programmed Act Freely horribly and should have included Act Freely and Direct Commands as 2 separate modes. Seriously, that would be a much better idea because Direct Commands is much better than Act Freely. Anyway, since literally every single enemy from the last block has some sort of resistance to curse except for 1, I decide to grind between floors 11 and 13 just before the Path of the Holy Grail. Here, we can fight Shido enemies with the Emperor's Amulet being weak to electric, the Heretic Goats being weak to bless, and the Dancing Lion being weak to curse. And since Kali was the most efficient enemy to grind against with Ryuji and On only, Sumire and Akechi can take the Strong Shadow down faster, with Kali only repelling gun and resisting curse. So needless to say, this was our best option to grind in mementos without insta-killing or swapping party members. After using up everyone's SP, we continue to infiltrate Maruki's palace on the 14th. We answered the 4th dialogue option with literally every single locked door. There's 2 mandatory mini-bosses and 3 optional ones if you answer the exam questions wrong, but after you get through the exam room, you have to fight Cert in the counseling room. Cert will resist physical and nullify electric. Akechi literally dies in 2 hits on the first attempt, and unfortunately, Sumire goes down too, leaving Ryuji, who we have already maxed out. Right now, I am more concerned on getting Akechi and Sumire leveled up, so sadly, we have to grind for the rest of this day in order to make the fight against Surt feasible. Sadly, there's just no good enemy in this palace that I know of to grind against. And when I say know of, I mean I always insta-kill these shadows in a regular playthrough, so I barely have an idea of where the shadows spawn. The strong shadow is extremely brutal and overpowered to the point that even on safe difficulty, it's impossible. So I just grinded on the 2 shadows in the corridor before Sumire's true awakening on the stairs. These shadows are the same enemies we fought against on our first infiltration, so I grinded for the rest of the day against these enemies until Akechi and Sumire are out of SP. Now, the level for Surt is level 78, so my goal was to level Akechi and Sumire up to level 88, so they are 10 levels for the extra 50% damage potential. But how am I going to do that if Maruki's palace is unreliable? It's not like I could go anywhere else to grind on past enemies of the game. Oh yeah! So we returned to Mementos on the 15th, once again grinded between floors 11 to 13 on the block before the Holy Grail, as the 3rd semester block is inefficient for Akechi. Now both Akechi and Sumire are at level 82, so how many in-game days does it take for us to grind them up to level 88? Well, 0. And no, Hypixie is not helping us here. You see, even if everyone runs out of SP while fighting Shadows or Kali, Sumire and Akechi have a strong enough strength stat and default weapon to end fights sooner. And even if Sumire can't heal, there's a chance that Futaba will heal through moral support. It's not a full party heal, but it's enough to extend our time grinding, allowing us to level up without having to restore SP or move on to the next day. It took about 4 saved hours to do so, but we managed to level Sumire and Akechi up to level 88. 6 levels in 1 day against Shido enemies with Futaba being our only healer. So on the 16th, we go face up against Surt again. Thankfully, it took only 1 try to beat him, though with Akechi's HP burned down to 1. But the increased damage potential became very noticeable, allowing us to proceed to the Twilight Corridor while Surt proceeds on to another Persona Challenge run where he's going to be very useful in my Persona 4 Golden Challenge run. The Twilight Corridor is without a doubt the most beautiful room in the entire game. After solving the color puzzles, we come across our final mini-boss of the run, the Dragon Slaying Genius. He nullifies physical and resists gun, but every other affinity aside from ice is fair game. And unlike Surt, Ryuji can inflict shock, allowing Akechi to get technical with Riot Gun. But once the AI realizes that the genius resists gun, they won't go for the technical and instead use their elemental attacks, and thanks to shock, this fight went far easier than Surt. So now we can secure the infiltration route, which means the only thing left to do is fight Dr. Maruki on the Day of Fates. So we drain the SP we had left in the corridor and proceed to Mementos on the 17th to grind with Akechi and Sumire up to level 99 so they are prepared for the final boss fight. Now, because there's a chance that Futaba will heal through moral support, we can push the grind in for as long as we want, as long as we don't get unlucky. Thankfully, I do get some good luck late into the grind where I get a deviation of Mementos only containing the strong shadows. This works so well in my favor as I spend over 50 minutes on this floor alone, grinding against Kali. Even though the Grim Reaper does appear, he is terrible at causing our final destination, allowing us to make back and forth trips playing a game of tag with the Reaper. And if we do get ambushed by the Reaper, there is no way to escape without the use of a Vanish Ball, so you gotta be careful. However, I got unlucky with the RNG as Futaba for whatever reason was not healing through moral support. This caused me to nearly lose over 50 minutes of progress as I had to bail and call it a day. So we continued to grind with the final bit of grinding on the 18th, as both Akechi and Sumire are at level 97. And I kid you not, after making 3 platform stops, I happened to get very lucky and spawn another deviation with strong shadows. This couldn't have been more perfect now that my party has the SP to finish Kali off efficiently. After 27 minutes of grinding on the same floor, it's finally done. We have maxed out Sumire and Akechi along with every backup member to level 99 by doing absolutely nothing. No insta-kills, no stamps, and no Mishima. And for proof, here is every single block with 0 stamps for every floor. My list of mementos requests. And we still hold the Crystal of Gluttony, which would have been automatically upgraded to the Rain of Gluttony had we talked to Jose once. And with a total save time of 123 saved hours, there was only one more thing left to do. Maruki demands us to accept his reality where we don't have to do anything and the happiness will come to us. And he tells me that if I do change his heart, Akechi will die because he actually died in Shido's palace. Let's see. Akechi ditched us after Sae's palace, he left us with only Honor Ryuji for Shido's palace, he made easy difficulty impossible without breaking the rules or lowering it to safe difficulty, and he made the infiltration grueling by using his HP for 2 skills and making me spend a few days trying to get past the warped abyss, and only he can activate his showtime while I have to guard through it. Yeah, screw that. Akechi has caused me more problems if anything. Thanks Maruki, but I'm fine if the Kira wannabe dies. And let me just say this. Entering the Day of Fates with everyone maxed out while acknowledging that I've been pressing the guard button for 123 saved hours and probably more than 300 hours of reloaded playtime is a realization that feels too good to be true. This takes longer than a casual playthrough of the game since I literally fast forward through every single cutscene. No human being should ever endure this torture, and yet, I did it. I made it to the final boss. It can only be done as low as safe difficulty, but I did it. And it's truly thanks to you viewers who have helped me endure and face this challenge head on. So, thank you everyone, and to the Patreon supporters who I'll be mentioning at the end of this video. So, before we see if Maruki is possible, let's have a final look at our stats. Everyone is at max level. Joker and Ryuji are at an automatic baton pass rank 2. Agathion is at level 93, all by grinding and never using the Velvet Room once. We still have our one and only lockpick from the crafting tutorial, 81 blank cards and only 6 skill cards, the red and green will seeds from every palace except for Kanashiro's palace, only 4 maxed out confidants, rank 1 with Akechi and Sumire, so no, you don't have to bond with Sumire and Akechi to get to the 3rd semester palace. You only need to bond with Maruki. I just want to say that because that's a common piece of misinformation that people believe in. This run is about being able to do the final palace, not seeing an extra bit of the final cutscene if we had maxed out Akechi. And so, with all that, we grab our 3 revival beads at the start of the palace and head up the Tree of Eden. This is it. No amount of grinding will help us further. It's time to see the truth and see if it's possible to be Persona 5 Royal by doing absolutely nothing. Let's do this. So for the first 2 phases, we need to fight Azathoth. However, there's a passive skill called Shield Tendro where we do so little damage as long as the 3 tentacles are still up. The less there are active, the more damage we can do to Azathoth. Each tentacle will have their own unique affinity which can either repel, nullify, or be weak to certain attacks. The tentacle of protection in front of Maruki is weak to physical moves, while the other tentacles nullify physical, so you don't have to worry about physical damage being repelled. The tentacle of assistance on the left will be weak to the first 4 elemental attacks, while the tentacle of healing on the right is weak to the last 4 magical attacks. Ryuji can handle the tentacle of assistance, while Sumire and Akechi can handle the tentacle of healing. And since everyone has a physical skill or the use of melee, anyone can attack the tentacle of protection's weakness. However, While gun skills are neutral to the Tentacle of Assistance and Tentacle of Healing, Tentacle of Protection repels gun attacks, so Akechi always dies due to using Riot Gun. And since we have 3 revival beats to work with, Akechi should be back on his feet after making this mistake. So note to self when you do this boss fight, never use gun-based skills. When the weaknesses for the tentacles become known, the Act Freely AI will utilize the Baton Pass, which is what you're supposed to do to build up the best damage potential possible. The AI will not use their multi-hit attacks unless there's no target that nullifies or repels their attack, which might sound like common sense in theory, but the multi-attacks keep the damage on Azathoth, and repelling magical back at Akechi or Sumire will be nullified. Unlike Ryuji, who can only nullify his electric if we had maxed out his Confidant. There's 2 phases to this fight. The first phase of Azathoth has Amplify Force, which is essentially a charge and concentrate ability, 2 physical attacks with Memory Blow having a low chance of inflicting Forget, and Nuclear Crash, which is a heavy multi-nuke attack. So essentially, physical and nuke are the main attacks for the first phase. The second phase, however, gets harder. There's 3 different Almighty attacks, 1 physical move called Rain and Seeds, Evil Smile given a medium chance of inflicting the party with fear, and Eternal Radiance, which is a heavy bless attack with a high chance of inflicting dizzy. And while Sumire will always nullify Eternal Radiance, Akechi can cause a 1 more since he is weak to bless attacks, and we can't rely on his evade bless skill to guarantee we're not going to take on more damage than usual. So now that you have an idea of what the fight is like, how is the execution? Horrible. Without Joker helping or the help from a multi-healer like Morgana or Makoto, Sumire is bound to run out of SP fast due to her having to heal only 1 party member almost every turn. Akechi will always get himself killed with Riot Gun unless he knows that Tentacle of Protection repels gun, and with everyone having a physical skill, HP runs out fast. But that's not the worst part. Ideally, you don't want to target your attacks on Maruki, as the Tentacle of Healing will always restore Maruki's health, and you can't really beat this fight unless Azathoth goes down. So you always want your attacks to be towards Azathoth and not Maruki. Sadly, the AI does not know this, so sometimes they do singular attacks on either Azathoth or Maruki, and anytime they attack Maruki, they're just wasting their hit points and spirit points doing so. Azathoth never heals or gets healed, so all attacks should be targeted towards him as you baton pass your way through bringing the tentacles down. Sadly, the AI is just not programmed to be aware of that. They only care about handling the weaknesses, healing before baton passing, and sometimes attacking Maruki or sometimes attacking Azathoth. And with Phase 2 offering far severe attacks, including the disadvantage of party members skipping their turn out of fear, Akechi being attacked with Eternal Gradients, and Maruki using a barrier to prevent us from doing certain actions, this just makes the whole fight impossible to pass without suffering a lot of hit points. So, the question is this fight possible? No, it isn't. I wish I was joking, but I'll explain why. While yes, a part of the problem is the incompetence of the AI and the lack of Joker, the main reason is because even at max level, you'll need some sort of SP recovery option to restore SP in order to bring the 2 tentacles down while also being able to heal. This is especially a problem for Ryuji and Sumire, as Sumire will be healing as well as attacking, while Ryuji naturally has the lowest SP capacity compared to any party member, and if Ryuji is out of SP, no one can bring down the Tentacle of Assistance, causing stat debuffs on our party and Tawarkaja on Maruki. The only attack that has a chance of taking down the Tentacle of Assistance is Akechi's Riot Gun, but he won't use it as long as the Tentacle of Protection is up. And since that requires a physical skill followed up with a gun skill, both of which cost HP, the AI will always be wasting their HP with no ways of being able to heal outside of the rare instance of Futaba healing through Immortal Support, which again, it's not a full party heal, so it's not really reliable. And because the AI will sometimes attack Maruki over Azathoth, the lowest I was able to get Azathoth's health was halfway down, or on most attempts, barely anything down at all. This fight is heavily RNG based, so where Azathoth's health falls down is usually no more than halfway before Joker ends up getting KO'd. The fear status ailment causes such a huge detriment on our party that even if they were able to attack while under fear, they cannot baton pass to anyone inflicted with fear, and if Ryuji runs out of SP to use electric, everyone will be baton passing to Joker since Agatheon is fused with Zeo. To the AI, they are unaware a challenge run is happening, so by all means this is efficient, just goes against our own rules, but sadly, no matter how good the RNG is, evasion rates, or good tactics from the Act Freely AI, the most I was able to get is halfway down on Azathoth's health during the second phase, and with one or more tentacles being present, my party will be doing very little damage against Azathoth. That is, if they do attack Azathoth and not Maruki. And the sad reality of it all is, there's no amount of grinding we can do to make this any better, and we're at the easiest difficulty for the best damage potential. The only way this fight is gonna be feasible is if we use a Sama during the fight, but that counts as doing something. So, we came a long way, but in the end, no. 100% confirmed, you cannot beat Persona 5 Royal by doing absolutely nothing, even on safe difficulty at level 99.
Joker, are you alright?
Is this truly it? Have they finally broken your spirit of rebellion?
So yeah, so much time wasted just to find out it's impossible at literally the final boss fight of the game. Over a few hundred hours of nothing but pressing the guard button and reloading failed attempts, only to never reach the end. We may be able to defeat Yaldabaoth on safe difficulty and get the happy ending with Maruki's reality, but not the true ending for Persona 5 Royal. So you may be thinking, I'm devastated, I'm broken, and depressed beyond repair, right? Well, honestly, I'm relieved. I am relieved it's finally over. Not a single minute went by that I wish I could utilize the game's various mechanics just to make the grind or the next battle easier. Every single palace was essentially me grinding for hours every day the palace was available just to make the next boss fight or the next palace easier and possible. This run has been absolute torture since the very second infiltration of Kamoshida's palace, which is still in the tutorial. And while there are some satisfying moments, it was never enough to make me forget the torture I've been through all throughout. And in the end, I think it delivers a good message that ironically fits Persona 5's main theme. It is possible to get through life by being dependent on others and doing nothing, but you can never achieve your true goals and the whole experience will leave you with more scars than anything beneficial. Nothing about this run was fun. The whole point of Persona 5 is to make the effort to prepare yourself to face the challenges that oppose you head on, and to overcome them. Yes, the game gets easier the more times you play it, so I can understand how it becomes less fun over time for veteran players, but the fun of it was that first experience figuring out how to overcome those challenges, and using subsequent playthroughs to break the game in every way possible. While the fun of it may fade, doing a run where you have limited options can be an intriguing experience. There's so many challenge runs on this game, and for a good reason, because it shows just how many different ways you can play the game. But by limiting yourself to the equivalent of 100 challenge run ideas to the point where you have no control over the game, completely misses the point of what made Persona 5 great to begin with. Yes, it's intriguing to see the impossible be made possible, but if a run is causing you to waste hours of your life while causing stress, PTSD, sleep deprivation, and nightmares, it has passed beyond into unhealthy territory. The only reason I kept going is because it kept getting me views and subscribers for it. If it had not been for my audience, I would have quitted this run before Kanashiro's Palace even started. Heck, maybe even before Madarame's Palace started. I strongly do not recommend this run in any way, even with insta-kill unlocked. By all means, do a challenge run. Try whatever you like, and it might give you a challenging and unique experience of playing the game. But don't limit yourself to the point where you literally let the game play itself while suffering a bajillion reloaded attempts. If I could rate the palaces from the most painful experience to the least painful, here they are. But that doesn't mean that even the easiest palace was fun in the slightest. Nothing about this run is fun or relaxing. And in the end, I'm honestly happy that it is impossible. Even if you were to max out your party members and play on the easiest difficulty, in the end, this run has taught us one thing. Effort. You need to put in any effort to make your life easier. While it may sound easy to just sit back and do nothing and let everyone else solve the problems for you, that will not be a life worth living. If you want to make a difference and have an experience worth your time, get off your lazy ass and do what you need to do to make the roadblocks ahead less inconvenient. There's no curse putting you down. You have to make the effort to make the seemingly impossible possible. And while you can get through life by doing nothing, it will ultimately mean nothing in the end, as you'll never reach your true goal. So despite all the suffering and torture I've endured, I feel free. I am glad to put this run behind me and move on with my life. So, now that we know it's impossible, let's make it possible. I kept a backup save on the evening of the 18th, just after I got level 99 with every party member. So what I'm gonna do is break the rules. The rules for pausing, be gone. The rules for the Velvet Room, be gone. The rules for the real world, be gone. And as for the metaverse, the only thing I'm gonna keep intact is Joker doing nothing during battles while party members are set on act freely. I think the whole meat of this run is seeing battles be made possible by Joker doing nothing while your party members make it possible. So let's do that. This is no longer a doing nothing run. It's a Persona 5 Royal without using Joker in battles. The only fights where this would not be possible up to this point is some of the tutorial fights and the fight against Ragna in the battle arena. However, starting on the 19th of January with less than 15 days of our deadline, we're gonna do whatever we can with the limited mechanics we've unlocked to see if beating Maruki is possible without Joker. And this is the plan. We need a user who has superior magical power to handle the Tentacle of Assistance, so we're gonna swap out Ryuji in favor of Morgana since he has more spirit points, better magic power, healing skills, 1 revival skill, all of his confidant abilities learned, a trait to reduce the SP cost of healing, and a resistance to Bless, which is one of the attacks in the fight. And since Sumiri nullifies Bless and has a good set of physical and magical damage, along with Ollie Dance, Sumiri will stay in the front lines. And since Akechi is too reckless with his skills and has a chance of causing a 1 more during Eternal Radiance, we're gonna swap him out with Makoto. Makoto will have good nuke skills along with multi-healing, a skill that can cure fear, and can resist 1 nuke skill that can happen during the first phase, so my final decision is to swap out Ryuji and Akechi in favor of Morgana and Makoto fighting alongside Sumiri. Ryuji served me well since his awakening battle, but his days of fighting are over. So with our final party member set, it is time to prep for the Day of Fates. January 18th. We just call it a night since I can't go outside and any activities available are useless. I increased my guts from sleeping, so that was worth it. The 19th, I discovered a library existed all along and I borrowed the speed reader book. I discovered I can sell over 3 million yen worth of dirty laundry, though I don't actually sell anything. I go to the airsoft where I discover I can sell almost 2 million yen from treasures I found in the metaverse. Since Joker won't be using melee weapons, I buy the Pro Parry and Dagger, which gives Joker an extra 2 points in his endurance and agility stat. I buy Morgana's second best available weapon for 5 points in his magic stat. I buy Makoto's second best available weapon for 5 points in her agility stat. And I buy the best available weapon for Sumiri with no additional buffs. I buy the best available guns for the damage potential, I buy the best available protectors, though I will change the protectors for Joker, Makoto, and Sumire later. I finally make the Velvet Room an available fast travel point, and here's an interesting fact that you may not know. Usually as early as Madarame's palace, Caroline and Justine would introduce you to the challenge battles that you can participate in. However, what if you've never had this introduction and Lavenza is available? Well, Atlas did think ahead of the possibility of nobody using the Velvet Room till 3rd semester, as there's unique voice lines for Lavenza introducing you to the challenge battles.
Should you prove successful, there is no doubt that you will be rewarded and strengthened in body and mind. We have prepared a special stage for you to undergo this part of your rehabilitation.
The only thing that's inconsistent is that your cell is locked and you're in your prison clothes, only for it to be unlocked when you have full control over Joker. I exit the Velvet Room, come back in, and only now did Joker realize that there's no locked door on his cell. So while there is a little bit of continuity error, there is unique dialogue for Lavenza introducing you to the challenge battles. Anyways, we see how far Agathion has come on his journey with Joker, and we see that we only have 3 personas in our entire compendium. I bid Agathion a farewell as we execute him and start fusing personas. I make sure to fuse a Death persona and a Chariot persona so we can deepen our bonds with a couple confidants. We start our confidant with Takemi of the Death Arcana, allowing us to get level 3 in Guts, and at night we play darts to max out Joker and Morgana's Baton Pass rank. On the 20th, I get rank 2 with Takemi, then I max out Sumire's Baton Pass rank. On the 21st, I start rank 2 with Ryuji and max out Makoto's Baton Pass rank. On the 22nd, I take Makoto to the confession booth to replace Flash Bomb with Nuke Boost to increase her damage potential. I kid you not, this is like the only time I've ever used the confession booth in any run I've done on this game. I play video games later at night to increase my guts. On the 23rd, I get rank 3 with Takemi and I play some video games again to increase my guts. On the 24th, I get rank 3 with Ryuji and read the Speed Reader book to increase my reading speed by 2 chapters. On the 25th, I read the Pirate Legends book to increase my guts, and I played Bailliards as a means of increasing my bond with Ryuji while also getting level 3 proficiency. On the 26th, I get rank 4 with Takemi and I read the Cry of Cthulhu to increase my guts. On the 27th, I read the Hero with the Bow to increase my guts, where I finally get level 4 guts. So at night, I start my first rank with the guy who's destroyed the comment section in my previous videos for name pronunciation purposes. On the 28th, I get rank 4 with Ryuji, and I play darts with him only to deepen my bond with him. On the 29th, I get rank 5 with Takemi, where I finally unlock her support items. This is the primary reason I bonded with Takemi, as she has the only SP recovery option I can get with the limited time I have left. So I buy 1 regen patch 3 so Joker can heal a little bit every turn, and 3 SP adhesive 3s for my party members to wear so they can invigorate a little bit of SP every turn. This is the best and only option we have to recover SP without using SP recovery items, since the Act Freely AI never use items outside of revival beads. I get rank 2 with the Weapons Dealer for no reason other than to pass time. On the 30th, I buy 99 Thanes of Revivadrins, though for disclosure, I don't know if the Act Freely members will use this like they do with revival beads, so this could be a wasted purchase. I later do some laundry to wash the latest clothes I got. I start Oya's Confidant for no reason other than to pass time and get EXP for fusing Devil Personas. On the 31st, we get rank 5 with Ryuji, and the only reason I bonded with him is to unlock the gym so we can give Joker a little bit of extra health for the final fight. Later that evening, I start the gym and use imported protein to increase HP. On the 1st of February, I wash dirty laundry again, as I find that the Sinful Bikinis are the best protectors I can get for both Sumire and Makoto, giving them both the best defense and an extra 50 SP. I later went to the gym, but then realized I forgot to buy the imported protein, which restocks every month. I accidentally mispressed the circle button instead of X, so I ended up training without protein, and my last save was way too far off for me to reload. On the 2nd of February, which is the final day we can prepare in the real world, I customized the best available guns to get a slight bit more attack power, as this is why I made the effort to get level 4 guts. I then sell all of my treasures so I can max out my wallet and spend the final day training at the gym with imported protein this time. So in total, I gained only 19 more hit points for Joker. We later reject Maruki's reality and hand him the calling card. We enter the Day of Fates. And now, the only thing left to do is to fuse the perfect persona for Joker so we can handle Maruki efficiently. Using the wiki, which Jack Bensey knows is the most reliable source of information, we can determine that Maruki will use almighty attacks which we can't null or repel, but he will use physical in both Azathoth's first and second phase. He can use Nuke in the first phase, and Bless for the second phase. So the goal is to not only protect Joker from these 3 affinities, but use it against Azathoth himself, as apparently repel damage completely ignores the shield tendril skill, allowing us to have Maruki himself essentially hit himself to guarantee a win in the fight. The 3 status ailments that Maruki can inflict during the fight is Forget, Dizzy, and Fear. Forget comes from a physical skill in the first phase, so as long as we can null or repel physical, we don't have to worry about being inflicted with that ailment. Dizzy has a high chance of being inflicted through the Bless attack, so as long as we can null or repel Bless, Joker and Sumire will never be inflicted with Dizzy. So it's really just the Fear ailment that's a big worry, as Joker will never use Guard sometimes when inflicted with Fear, leaving him vulnerable to most attacks. So what we need to do is fuse a persona with passive skills against Nuke, Physical, and Bless, and the Fear ailment. So now that we got an idea of how to create the perfect persona, it's time to get fusing. So we start fusing personas and buying the ones with passive skills from the compendium, as we really only want to carry over passive skills, particularly the ones that will be useful. There's so much footage to go over, so I'll try to show how I fused my best persona. Bear in mind, there are some personas we cannot fuse since we only have 4 ultimate personas that we can fuse, and we don't have access to the advanced fusions. And I refuse to buy the DLC for this game, so there's no DLC persona. With that said, here's the highlights. At level 83, we can fuse Vishnu for the skill Ollie Dance, which will increase Joker's evasion rate to almighty attacks if he happens to not be guarding. At level 8, we can fuse Abaryon, which has the passive skill to resist fear. Unfortunately, there's not a single persona in the royal version that nullifies fear without using an accessory from the airsoft, so resist fear is gonna have to do. Mishaguji of the Hierophant will inherit Regenerate 3 to give us some HP recovery. The ultimate persona of the Judgment, Satan, can be fused with nothing but passive skills, which will come in handy later on. We can fuse our number 1 enemy from Okumura's Palace, Rebellious Elephant, as he can learn the skill Repel Physical. However, a simple fusion and an execution of Satan, who is the highest level persona we can fuse, is not enough to learn the Repel Physical skill, and we can't strengthen Rebellious Elephant again. But thankfully, there's a workaround. By registering the persona, fusing them away, and rebuying them from the compendium, we can strengthen them again. This allows us to use 2 gallows executions of Satan to learn the passive skill Repel Physical. After an hour and 34 minutes of fusing later, we fuse our best persona for the fight against Maruki, Uriel of the Justice. Uriel can drain nuke attacks and naturally repels bless attacks. We use Agathion's trait Rare Antibody, as it was really the only useful trait that I could find. We fuse Uriel with Resist Fear, Null Forget, Repel Physical, and Ollie Dance. So now, we can survive all affinities while using Physical and Bless to repel back at Azathoth. I itemize Satan as he has the best protector for male characters, so I use Tantric Oath on Joker. I then spend the next 30 minutes executing Satan to strengthen Uriel. Uriel will learn the passive skill Repel Nuke, although his Drain Nuke will take priority, making the Repel Nuke skill useless. And as I level up Uriel through executions, I can learn a skill that Satan happened to have had to guarantee that I have the best passive skills for Uriel. And every time I strengthened Uriel, I had to register him, fuse him away, buy him and Satan from the compendium, and execute Satan over and over and over and over and over again until Uriel reaches level 99. And yeah, while this took a very long time, this entire progress is a million times better than the Doing Nothing run in its entirety. So by the end of it, I had a level 99 Uriel with Defense Master, Regenerate 3, Endure, Resist Fear, Null Forget, Repel Physical, Ollie Dance, and Fortify Spirit. All I can say is this. This is far better than whatever Agathion had. Agathion served us well, but now this is our new and final persona for the run. So with a save time of 126 hours, which means we spent over 3 hours doing something to do nothing, we're gonna see if our effort was worth it in the end by fighting Maruki and never using Joker and having everyone act freely. I'm still stuck on safe difficulty, but in the end, let's just see if a no Joker run is possible. Let's do this. So for every turn, Joker will regenerate 35 HP while everyone else invigorates 7 SP. Morgana can handle the Tentacle of Assistance while Makoto and Sumire can handle the Tentacle of Healing. And now that Sumire is the only physical skilled user of the group, Sumire will primarily use physical skills while Morgana and Makoto do most of the healing. And with baton passes being ranked up, my party can get the best damage potential while restoring a little bit of HP and SP. And since Uriel lacks any offensive skills, nobody ever baton passes to Joker. And since Morgana always goes first, nobody baton passes to Morgana, but it only took one evening to max them out, so not a huge loss. And with the use of Morgana's third awakening trait, Majestic Presence, any healing or reviving can have a decreased SP cost. Now, whenever Maruki uses Raining Seeds or Memory Blow, Joker can repel that attack since both of them are a physical attack. Nuclear Crush is a nuke skill which happened in my attempt in the Doing Nothing run, but thankfully we got through the entire first phase without this attack happening. Sadly, we do have to deal with our party sometimes attacking Maruki over Azathoth, or using multi-magic attacks on both instead of saving their SP on only attacking Azathoth, but my party is doing a lot better than they were before in comparison. The only big hindrance during the second phase was Maruki preventing us from using certain moves like no magical skills, but overall, this fight was really not that bad. Eternal Radiance, which is a bless attack, can be repelled by Joker, null by Sumire, and Morgana can resist it. Unfortunately, Morgana can still be inflicted with Dizzy from the attack, but at least Joker and Sumire are safe from it. And Shield Tendril lowers our attack power on Azathoth for any tentacles that are still up. However, the passive skill does not apply to repel damage, so being able to repel physical and bless saves so much time and helps speed up this fight. Thankfully, regardless of ailment, Morgana can either use his Confidant ability to snap allies out of an ailment, or use Salvation, saving our parties from Dizzy and Fear, and he won't use Salvation until he deals with the weaknesses that he can exploit. At some point, Makoto starts running out of SP, but as long as she's invigorating SP every turn and Morgana is healing, it's no longer a death sentence like it was before. Eventually, there's more targets that start to become weak to other attacks like Wind, though honestly I don't really know why or how this change works, but as long as it works, that's all I care about. Eventually, Joker is unable to guard, so I just melee attack the tentacle that nulls physical as a means of doing nothing. Late into the fight, Azathoth will charge up with Tyrant's Stance.
Be careful. I'm sensing a ridiculous amount of energy from his persona. Joker, you all have to guard this.
Uh-oh. Unfortunately, nobody guards for this charged up attack like they would usually do for the previous boss battles, but thankfully, nobody dies from the Severe Almighty attack. Although interestingly enough, Azathoth uses Tyrant Stance once again, and after Morgana deals with the weaknesses, he actually does guard along with Makoto and Sumire. Why they didn't do so the first time, I don't know. But after 15 minutes into the fight, Morgana uses one last Megarodine, defeating Azathoth. One melee attack later, and we have finished the longest fight of the final boss fight with only one KO. But 2 more fights remain. Maruki awakens to his second persona, Adam Kadmon, the most badass and short-lived persona with the best looking ass you never get to see. Once this fight starts, everyone will be full on their HP and SP. Now thankfully being on safe difficulty, Azathoth doesn't do too much damage, whereas on hard difficulty, he has a chance of one-shotting you. Thankfully with Morgana healing and everyone having strong skills, this fight goes as intended with only one target and no mistakes from the AI. Morgana will get the final hit with wind and we move on to the grand cutscene that is the final phase of Adam Kadmon. Adam will do enough damage to get Morgana to fully heal the party as everyone else tries to attack Adam in any way they can. After 3 full forces from Adam Kadmon, Futaba calls in the actual cutscene where Joker breaks through the curse and actually does something, destroying Maruki's dummy-thick persona and giving Maruki a few punches for making the do-a-nothing run impossible. So with the real reality back, only 2 chocolates, flowers for Sejiro, and 2 farewell gifts, we have finally ended this run once and for all. So no, you cannot be Persona 5 Royal by doing absolutely nothing, but you can be Persona 5 Royal without using Joker in battles if you exclude the tutorial fights and the second battle arena fight. And let me just say, this run was a goddamn mistake. But it's also the best, worst run I have ever done in a video game, and while my mind may have PTSD from this run, I also don't regret being the one to cover it for you guys. This challenge run is my burden, my trauma, and my baby. But in the end, the moral of this challenge run is to not limit yourself. The point of a challenge run is to challenge yourself and use whatever you have to overcome that challenge. But to let the game essentially play itself and go against what Persona 5 is about is an experience not worth anyone's time. I would never recommend this run to anybody, not even on my worst enemy. Just be glad that someone else has done it and it's all here for you to see. And if this third and final part was way too long of a video, think of it this way. The length of this video is a short grinded day in a palace of doing nothing. The doing nothing run ultimately becomes a grind with no way to reach the true ending. This is a traumatic experience I will definitely remember, and from this point forward, I will never do a run like this again. Persona 4 Golden by doing nothing? Forget about it. It's not worth it, and don't ever call dibs on it. Your time and sanity is worth keeping. So, what does this mean for Nitsa Gamer? Well, I'm gonna move on. Try new things. There's plenty of ideas I have, and it will be ideas that require me to put in the effort. Will I ever do a Persona 5 video ever again? Probably not-ish, though with the game coming to multi-platforms in October, I might do another video on this game. And while I may be putting Persona 5 behind me, I will be doing more challenge runs in the future. Right now, I'm working on one for Breath of the Wild, and I'm working on a no-hit run for Persona 4 Golden. Be sure to check out the stream videos of the dungeons I've done so far, and we'll see if Persona 4 Golden is possible to beat without taking damage.
No freaking way! Yes! Yes! We did it! We got through both Shadow Racing and Shadow Teddy damageless! Holy shit!
I also plan to do other projects, most of them gaming related, but others for bigger projects that should hopefully go beyond YouTube. And I'd truly appreciate it if you guys stay subscribed and stay tuned for what I have to offer in the future. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and ding the bell for more Nitsa Gamer content. Thank you to everyone who has helped me through this entire challenge run, and those who wanted to see me suffer. No, really, thank you. And special thanks to all Patreon backers, including Supersonic 1014, Darkwing Spartan, Supersonics 58, and GameChamp 3000 does not recommend playing Pokemon without getting hit. If you do, you will be like Marowak. And a huge shout out to Billy Kometz. Thank you so much for your hard work and bringing life to an amazing character.